given an absolutely own goal to the Conservatives over the weekend. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so this was an interview that the Shadow Health Secretary gave yesterday when he said that spending plans that Labour have set out aren't the full sum of parts of Labour's plans on the economy and what they're going to be spending on public services. And, of course, the Tories then say this has let the cat out of the bag. Labour actually are planning a lot more tax rises than they're letting on. And, of course, if now Labour is saying that this manifesto doesn't represent their full spending, the Tories are now entitled to ask, well, what is?
I mean, all this sort of absolutely insisting that the working person won't be paying any more tax, income tax, VAT or national insurance, but they haven't ruled out a rise in things like council tax and lots of the stealth taxes and the wealth taxes as well. So that will be, what will be their big line of attack. Do you think that that could change things?
Well, I think that tax has featured more in this campaign than perhaps we might have thought of at some points, and it hasn't seemed to be sort of cutting through. But, of course, today is going to be Labour's big day on the economy. Rachel Reeves setting out plans for 650,000 new jobs under their Green Prosperity Plan, and I suspect all she's going to get asked today at that press conference is repeated questions about tax, and the Tories are saying the sums don't add up, and Labour will be on the back foot on an area that traditionally has been a weakness for them.
Interesting focus on Labour also from Reform today, who are launching not their manifesto, but what they want to call their social contract. I'm not sure why they're allergic to the word manifesto. Why have they chosen Wales?
Well, the answer is that Wales, of course, has been run by Labour there for 25 years now, since the advent of devolution in Cardiff Bay. And the Reform are saying this is a chance to kind of turn their guns on Keir Starmer. They've made a number of huge inroads into the Tory vote, really going after the Tories. So this is an attempt to try and get more Labour votes at the expense of Keir Starmer's party. But I think the key thing, of course, is that unlike, say, UKIP in 2015, which took votes sort of equally from Labour and the Tories, Reform much more hurting the Tories this time than Labour. And that's partly, of course, because people are judging it in Westminster rather than the Labour record in Wales.
The polling over the weekend, it was a devastating Survation MRP poll, which put the Tories down to 72 seats, I think. But it had Reform on 7 seats, which is the best polling I've seen yet in terms of seats. They'll be pleased with that.
Yes, they will. I mean, not least because David Bull, who's the deputy leader of Reform, said that last week on GB News that he was hoping for 4 seats. Obviously, 7 is pretty good. When we started this campaign, they thought they might get 1 if Clacton, if Farage stood. The fact that they're making sort of real inroads now, I think, shows their campaign is working, and they'll be delighted to be very bullish about their prospects going into this campaign.
What about the Lib Dems? Just looking at the papers this morning, and I see that they're Sir Ed Davies being urged to end the election buffoonery. I mean, I could have told you that on day one, but he seems absolutely wedded to this as a tactic.
Yes, I think it's very much sort of make light of him as a personality and try and sort of...
But he's such a serious character.
Yeah.
And he's got such a strong personal story. Do you think it's necessary?
I suppose traditionally the Lib Dems have always struggled for proper coverage, and they've been the third party and treated as such. So this is an attempt to get some easy sort of pictures and then tie that to a message. So, for instance, you're larking around in the water is a good way for him of bringing attention to sewage, which is something the Lib Dems have campaigned on to great effect the last 2 local elections. So there's method in the madness, and you see that in the polls, which show they're going to win 40 seats or so.
And positioning themselves as left of Labour, which is, fairly new for Lib Dems, really.
It's what they really do when Labour are sort of the party of government. So they did it very well in 2001 and 2005, particularly after the Iraq War. So they were able to win those kind of seats in those sort of university graduates at the time, places like Bristol and London, for instance. So I think that, this is something they're clearly returning to the tried and tested playbook. And they're also going to be trying to make gains in the West Country, hence their big announcement today on fuel duty.
OK, interesting. And that's on rural
fuel duty, exactly.
Okay. Thanks for that. That's a good overview of what we can expect. Week 4, I think we're into now, aren't we? Yeah, good stuff. Thank you very much.
Let's have a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom on this Monday morning. And a major police operation took place in Hamburg ahead of the Euros yesterday. German police shot a man threatening officers with an axe. According to reports, the incidents took place near a fan zone for supporters of the Dutch football team. The attacker is being treated for injuries.
The European Union has vowed to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes to secure peace. The announcement was made during a 2-day peace summit in Switzerland, which called for Russia to give Ukraine full control of nuclear plants and ports, for food not to be weaponised against Ukrainians, and for all prisoners of war to be released.
A 10-month-old calf, which was run down by a police car in Surrey, is being nursed back to health now, according to the family who own the farm that it had escaped from. The family described the incident as disgusting before warning that the young cow could still die from shock. It comes after a Surrey police officer who was driving the vehicle has been taken off duties until a full investigation has been completed.
The number of pubs disappearing from our high streets and villages has jumped, with almost 250 closing in the first 3 months of the year. It means around 80 pubs shut each month. That represents a 56% increase compared to this time last year. And publicans are blaming high energy, food costs and tighter consumer spending, plus eye-watering tax burdens facing small business owners.
Well, a couple of things to talk about there. That police car which ran into that cow, unbelievable. I mean, if ever there was a wrong course of action, it was really just frightening, shocking to see how an animal reacts and why it needs to be run into by a police car. That should be just the last resort. Awful situation. The officer who drove the car into the calf has been suspended, has to say. And pubs. Is there ever going to be a pub left? What is this country doing to actually... 80 pubs?
I know, but people can't afford it. The cost of going to the pub now is astronomical. You go for a meal, you know, family of 6 or whatever, you take someone out for Father's Day, you're looking at easily over 100 quid, 150 quid. And the cost for these pubs to keep them open is just astronomical. You're looking at for 2 people at Pizza Hut, you know, or Pizza Express or whatever it is. We have to support our local pubs, and it does make me think we've got one in our village, and I think since we've moved to the village, we've only been there twice, but we would be so sad if it closed. So if you love your local pub, make sure you get down there. You don't even have to have a drink. You can have a soft drink, but just make sure you support it, because we'll end up with them all being flats or, I don't know, just empty, which would be really, real shame, wouldn't it?
Or takeaways.
Takeaways,
that's it.
Yeah.
Hello, Honor Chiswick even, or Honor anyway. It's you and the weather. Morning.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update, brought to you by the Met Office. Well, there's still plenty of sunny spells and showers in the forecast this week, but from midweek onwards, plenty of dry weather, and we'll even start to see some sunshine. A cloudy start for Monday, though, across the central slice of the UK, with some showers starting to break through, and on the whole, a rather unsettled day with sunny spells and showers. The driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, where we'll see plenty of sunshine. It may just turn hazy by the time we reach the afternoon, but this is where we're going to catch the best of the temperatures, highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius by the afternoon. Later on into the afternoon and through into the evening, we will continue to see plenty of showers across the country, and they may be heavy at times. You may even hear the odd rumble of thunder in the northeast. And lighter winds too, which means they're going to move through fairly slowly, so you may catch some persistent heavy downpours at times. Largely dry across Northern Ireland, but a mostly cloudy day. Still some showers in the north of England. But further south is where we'll start to see that drier weather. The odd shower here and there, but otherwise plenty of late evening sunshine on offer. Through into the evening, it is going to be a largely drier night compared to recent nights. Plenty of clear spells too, which means it's going to be turning cooler. May even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the morning. But it is going to be staying largely cloudy across Scotland, and it's going to be quite damp here too. But that means that's where it's going to be milder. Whereas under those clearer spells, it is going to be a cooler night than recent nights. Now, overall on Tuesday, it is going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still those showers, though, generally developing through the course of the morning in northeast England, and quite a damp day across Scotland too. And once again, we could catch the odd heavy downpour, may even hear the odd rumble of thunder, and a chance we may see some rain in the far southeast. But that's generally where we'll see the warmer weather once again. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You didn't like the weather this week.
I was very unimpressed. I mean, goodness me, trooping the colour on Saturday. I mean, at least it came out for the fly past Buckingham Palace, but when the Princess of Wales was making her return to public life, it was mad weather, and I had my son's sports day that got cancelled halfway through. The marquee was lifted off the ground, knocked one of the grandparents attending off his feet. June, It wasn't like this when I was young.
There you go.
What is going on? Awful. Apparently there's a heat wave on the way, though. So.
Well, we will brighten things up for you this morning because it's time for our giveaway. This is your chance to win over £16,000 worth of prizes, £15,000 in cash, and then a whole host of summer treats after that.
Yes, it could be yours. You've got to be in it to win it, though. Here are all the details that you need.
Don't miss out on your chance to win our Summer Spectacular. And have we got a prize for you? First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your Summer Spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. So you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Still to come, we've got a renewed focus to clamp down on gun crimes as shock new stats show only half of cases go unsolved.
Mark White investigates. That's next. Keep it here on GB News.
It's midday. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday,
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides.
As you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. Britain's election channel. GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
You'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said Stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Almost all the firearms being used by criminals on the streets of London are being brought in from abroad.
That's according to senior police officers, and our Home and Security editor, Mark White, has been taking an in-depth look at the issue.
At this train station in Luton, firearms officers move in on an armed suspect. This is 20-year-old Tyrell McCoy. When officers searched him, they found this handgun and ammunition. McCoy and other members of his North West London gang have now been jailed for drugs and firearms offences.
I'm scared to think about his last moments, because I think if I do, that's when I'm going to hit that black hole and I might never, ever come out of it.
Jackie Taylor knows more than most the heartbreak gun crime can bring. Last year, her son Tyrese was shot dead in South London. His killer has since been convicted, but for the family, their grief is all-consuming.
Sometimes I sit down and it's not even tears. I'll just be sitting down and all of a sudden I can't breathe. And then I'm just like, come on, Jackie, come on. None of us have ever been the same since that day. It's just horrible.
Loud shout, loud shout! Across the capital, police have raided dozens of addresses in recent weeks in a crackdown on the criminal gangs involved in gun crime, arresting more than 50 and seizing dozens of weapons. The Met say firearms offences have fallen to a 15-year low in London. But many criminals still manage to acquire guns, often from other crime groups overseas.
Well, the majority of illegally held firearms here in this country come from abroad. But having said that, we often see converted blank firers, which are legal. They're used for things like starting pistols, gaming, etc. Currently, we're seeing converted firearms coming in from places like Turkey. It fluctuates over the years.
This South London criminal, Danny Butler, is now serving an 18-year jail term after officers searched his home and found 6 firearms. Some, including a loaded handgun, were found in his young children's bedroom drawers. Across the capital, police are continuing to pursue the gun criminals. But it is, it seems, a never-ending battle against those determined to carry these deadly weapons. Mark White, GB News.
Still to come after the break, Christopher Biggins and Dawn Neeson. They've got the papers. Hopefully we'll have you after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Derbyshire, the A617 is partly blocked westbound by an accident between Hasland Road and the A61 Hornsbridge roundabout in Chesterfield. In Staffordshire, Keelings Road is partly blocked by an accident in the Cat-In at Stoke-on-Trent. On the M4 west of London, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed westbound because of animals on the road. In junctions 3 and 4 from Heston to Heathrow, it's slow as a result. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues getting onto the M25 again this morning because of roadworks. In Dorset, the A35 is partly blocked each way where a car caught fire between the football ground roundabout and the A37 at the Monkeys Jump roundabout. In Dorchester, in Devon on the A38, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident near the Rattery turnoff, and also on the A38 in Cornwall there are temporary traffic lights for emergency bridge repairs after an accident near the Bodmin Parkway turnoff. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The University of Cambridge has told students to stop flirting with staff under a new policy banning sexual relationships with professors. The new rules, which come into force next month, beginning of July, include a warning against behaviour that could be interpreted as flirtatious. University staff have been told they must report any behaviour that could constitute a student making advances towards a personal, particularly intimate relationship with them. If you're a tutor, how do you interpret what is flirting and what is just sort of like having a bit of banter?
In fact, we've got to
very nice trousers, by the way.
Thank you.
I see.
You see, you didn't even recognise.
Oh, I didn't.
He's got
I think I'm blushing now. I'm blushing.
So, what's flirting? What's me complimenting your very well-fitting trousers? Yes.
Well, there is a line, because obviously when you're 18 and you go to university, it might be the first time you're away from home. It might be the first time that you're open to maybe a bit of a nightlife, social activity, drinking, and all the rest of it. On the flip side, I know a couple who, the pupil ended up dating their professor, and they've been together for about sort of 15 years now. So I used to go after lectures with my professor and the whole seminar. We used to go to the pub afterwards, and I became very good friends with. She was a mature student. She was on the very, very far left of political. You wondered where that was going for a second, didn't you?
We're both reading a huge sigh of relief.
Very quick for you, Joe. We're running out of very nice trousers as well. We're running out of time.
Not as snug as Charlie. I think you've got to have some rules in place that there's no abuse of power. Policing it's difficult. We ought to be in a position where you can say, get off, back off, or, banter's fine. Actually, I hate that word. I hate it almost as much as woke. Go on, email in.
Thank you very much. I'm flirting with both.
The People's Channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides
as you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. Britain's election channel.
OK, we're going to hear a lot from the Reform Party and Nigel Farage, its leader today. Here in studio with us are Dawn Neeson and Christopher Biggins. We say good morning to them.
Good morning.
Morning. Dawn, what would you say about Nigel Farage and what his profile is going to be in Wales today?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Farage is travelling to Wales to launch the Reform, not a manifesto, it's more of a mission statement. So...
Is that... Why? Why are they refusing to call it a manifesto?
Well, after West Streeting at the weekend, I don't blame them, to be honest with you. And West Streeting Labour coming out and saying, well, when we mean manifesto, I mean, it's kind of a manifesto, but it might change occasionally, and the funding is not fully costed, possibly.
And we'll come on to that, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So,
The thing about manifestos, of course, is none of us, I don't know about you, Biggins, but none of us ever look at them and say, oh, they'll stick to that, and they will do that, and they will see that
This is the problem. But Farage is down in Wales, which is... been run by Labour, got a terrible record on NHS, education, the war on drivers. You can't drive at more than 20 miles an hour. I'm paraphrasing, I know you can on some roads. So he's going down there. But I think what David Cameron said at the weekend about Nigel Farage has actually got to Nigel. I think Cameron accusing him basically of dog whistle politics, of basically implying racism and almost comparing him to Enoch Powell at one point, although Cameron said, I didn't mean that, but that's the hint you get. And
he said with populists you get inflammatory language and hopeless policy.
I think Farage has been rattled by that, so I think that's why he's fighting
So what's he said? He actually has turned around and said, no, I haven't destroyed and I'm not out to destroy the Tories. David Cameron, you're responsible for destroying
right, Isabel. This is very much, and this interview in the Times today is Farage hitting back and saying Cameron has destroyed the Tories. He's the one that's done all this. He's the one, that set this move to the left in motion. And, for the last 5 manifestos, they've promised to sort out immigration, which they haven't done. So I think this is Farage having a go at Cameron, and Cameron was having a go at him over the weekend. And obviously there's no love between those two at all in any way, shape or form.
Well, I reckon there'd be a list of contenders as to who did destroy the Tories. If you've got a name you'd like to add to that, please do let us know this morning. Biggins, has Labour let the cat out of the bag on tax? I mean, they say they're not going to increase anything. So what's this story today? This is front page of the Mail.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the story we just talked about, I mean, I think they think we're idiots, the politicians. I mean, we listen with utter boredom at all they talk about and they say they're going to do. We know nothing's going to happen. And this whole business, I mean, I thought the first debate they had with Rishi and Starmer, when he said you're going to increase the taxes by 2,000, And it took Starmer a half an hour to answer. And obviously there was a break, because it was ITV, and someone went in and said, you've got to answer this question, you know, someone from the Labour Party. You know, because of course they're going to put the money up. They're going to put the taxes up.
But he says they're not.
Well, they have to. How are they going to pay for all this?
They've said we're not going to raise taxes for the working people. So no income tax rises, no VAT rises unless you pay school fees.
Well, that's us then. We won't
no
pay.
national insurance. But he hasn't ruled out council tax. And interestingly, capital gains tax. Apparently, Starmer's key aide liked a social media post saying it would be politically wise to increase the levy. Now, they've rode back saying it was an accident. He didn't mean to like it, didn't mean to like it. But everybody's saying that's what they're gunning for. Council tax rises and capital gains.
Of course they will.
I mean, you know, they mentioned 3 taxes they're not going to touch, but that leaves an awful lot of them that are up for grabs, basically. And the Nuffield Trust, who very respected, came out at the weekend and said there is no way either Labour or Tories' policies regarding the NHS are fully funded. They will have to find more money from somewhere. And Isabel, the one question, and they keep saying the working people. What is a working person? Rishi Sunak, millionaire. He's a working person.
But we are, on this panel. Yeah. We're all working.
But I mean, Gordon Brown, who's a man I like very, very much and respect, actually, but he used to, when he was Prime Minister, he used to talk about, you know, taxes for hard-working people. Hard-working people, which means that basically what they're saying is, Biggins, you're not hard-working, Don, you're not hard-working. I'm not hard-working. Isabel's not hard-working. But if you earn nothing, then basically you are a hard-working person. I mean, why don't they just tell the truth?
Well, they can't. It's impossible for any politician to tell the truth.
It's interesting that one of the papers talking about go for the jugular Rishi Sunak. It's the front of the Times this morning. And they're trying to get him to really land some blows on Starmer for his links to Corbyn in the past and all of the sort of rhetoric that goes with that.
We saw that in the interview with Beth Rigby, where she went straight in on, you know, Corbyn was once your best mate, you were back in for Prime Minister, at the same time you didn't believe him, why should anyone believe a word you say? It was a very good interview, I thought, personally. But I do think getting too personal in politics, it becomes more childish. And as a voter, I don't want them actually getting too personal.
But it's difficult for the Conservatives to criticise their sort of manifesto spending when the IFS came out after the Tory manifesto and said, I'm sorry, but this is implausible. How on earth are you going to fund £17 billion in tax cuts when we haven't really got significant growth? So it's, again, as you guys have been saying this morning, do you believe any of it
Not
at this point?
any of it.
I think the important thing that Labour could win votes on, more votes than they're going to get in any case, is the fiscal drag, where the income tax levels have been frozen, and that's dragged more people, including pensioners, into paying tax. And that was brought in by the Conservatives, and Labour haven't said anything about getting rid of that. And that would, I think, maybe help a lot of people make their minds up.
Chris, here we are in January. So it's June feeling like January, really. And Saturday was an amazing example of just 1 minute it was wet, the next minute it was windy, the next minute it was dry and sunny and nice and pleasant. And when I say minute, I mean 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then it changed again.
Well, I was in Belfast, somewhere you know well, Eamonn, at the weekend, and honestly, the weather was... It was... In the morning, there was the most torrential hailstorm. Then the sun came out, then it rained again. It was extraordinary. And, of course, we watched the television. The King having to be subjected to this... I mean, there he is, he's ill, and they put him out in front of Buckingham Palace with no cover at all.
Well, it reminded me of whichever Jubilee it was now, where Prince Philip was out on the beach.
On the boat?
Yes.
Oh.
Drenched, and he was really ill after that.
Really
and you do
ill.
think there was the Princess of Wales making her debut back into the public arena, and both of them, as you say, sort of shivering in January. That's a good phrase for it, isn't it?
It's ludicrous. I don't know. And, of course, the whole of Europe is burning up.
Wow.
I mean, you know, Greece, they closed the Acropolis because it was so badly heating. You know, it was just terrible.
Weather's gone completely mad.
It has.
I just going back to Saturday, I thought Princess Anne was amazing.
Oh, she is amazing.
Always.
I honestly just adore her. Same, on her horse.
Yeah, in that rain.
Outperforming all the men of the family.
Didn't it? Yeah.
She's the best royal. She is fantastic.
Understated, hard-working, no nonsense.
No, absolutely. And a lovely woman.
Philip always wanted.
Yeah, yes.
You have to say that?
But she is a horsewoman, of course, but you don't associate Edward with horses or William with horses. They too had to spend hours sitting on the back of a horse, which I thought was very, very impressive for them.
Have you ever ridden a horse, Eamonn?
Yeah. Yes.
Have you?
It's not stunned silence.
I find it very hard, though, to part my legs.
Oh, good
you know,
grief.
to get up on the back of a saddle.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
No, that was always difficult for me.
I once died on the back of a horse in a series called Poldark.
Oh,
I came to my death on the back of a horse.
Did you fall from it?
I fell, and then I was dragged across the moors.
And stunt double.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I did a lot of it myself, but I was dragged by a Range Rover. Not a horse, because
Far safer.
Exactly.
What a way to go.
Oh, what a way to go.
Have you actually ever fallen off a horse, though? Because I have, and it's not funny.
No, I haven't.
I was in a neck brace for a long time.
No, really?
Yeah.
Right, just when we didn't want to hear this, I've gargled with this morning. Gargling with Listerine mouthwash could increase your risk of
everything increases.
Everything living increases your risk of dying, by the way. Yeah, this is...
Being on this programme increases.
Very much so, yeah. This is a story in The Telegraph. Gargling, as you say, so with Listerine mouthwash may increase the risk of some cancers, a scientist has claimed. Daily use of the cool mint flavour in particular was found by a researcher at Belgium University to increase the level of bacteria in the mouth that had been previously linked with esophageal and colorectal cancer.
How the heck do these things get this far before someone...
You know what? That's exactly what I was going to say. And it's like so many products now, and it's like, you know, well, yeah, they are linked to this. It's like, well, how come I can just go and buy it in the supermarket?
Yeah.
It's been linked to cancers. So yeah, it's one study, but it does sound quite worrying, doesn't it?
Very, very worrying. What about this one in the Star, Chris? There's lots of talk about cows this morning, but this one, I was going to say takes the biscuit, but actually it's a bit more watch-related than... Fill me in
the
on
Rolex?
This. Yes.
I know. I mean, and it's extraordinary. How many years was it?
50.
50 years. I mean, that poor man without not knowing the time for 50 years.
So a cow ate his Rolex.
Yes, and it came out 50 years later.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What did it come out of?
But this is what I'm thinking. It's one hell of a constipated cow.
No, I mean, presumably it came out of the cow, someone found it, it went somewhere else. I mean, we need to look into the detail on that, but...
Do you think they were having Sunday roast and suddenly there was a lovely Rolex in the middle of it all?
Yeah. But then this other story about the calf, which was rammed by a police car. Awful footage, awful situation to see how we got to that stage. What's your view on this one, Christopher?
Well, the thing is, we eat cows, don't we? And we do terrible things to cows when they're going to be made into our Sunday lunch. I think, what could the police do? I mean, it's a terrible situation.
Have some humanity about the whole thing.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, we don't quite know how the situation, perhaps how frightened they were that it might run wild with children around.
The calf looks calm enough in the road, walking down the road, unperturbed. I mean, yes, they're going to have to round it up in some way. But then the siege drives a car full force right into it. I thought it was absolutely disgusting.
I actually think it's amazing how many headlines this story has gathered. Yes. I mean, there was an 11-year-old boy killed in a hit-and-run on Friday. Hardly any mention of it.
In the press.
I think there is a lot of professional outrage over this story.
So you think, right, fine for the 11-year-old boy, yes, we should not acknowledge that, whatever it is, but run over a cow if you want.
No, not at all. But I'm saying, why should a cow get all these headlines
but
when
at
an
least
11-year-old boy was killed
we're getting, and
on
there
Friday,
should be more
child.
concern about how animals are put down.
Yeah, well, that is another
how they're
story.
treated.
And they are treated badly, I think.
The thing is with this story, I mean, it's horrific. The footage is absolutely horrible. We don't know the full background. Evidently, this incident was going on for a few hours, and we've seen 30 seconds.
What full background is there? No, the cow's in the middle of the road.
No.
It's walking down the road, and a guy drives a police car into full force.
But the level of command, Eamonn, I mean, who made the decision to do that? Was it the men, or I'm assuming the men, we don't know, driving the actual car? Who was in charge of them? Had they tried to contact vets or the local zoo or whatever? Had any of this been done? I don't know the full background to that. But what does get me about this story is 12 million cows are killed in this country every year with a bullet through the brain, basically. Yep. And all these people getting fussed about this. And I agree, it's horrific footage.
But something's going to have to make them fussed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is horrific footage. But I do wonder whether all these people then sat down to a Sunday lunch and ate the nice bit of roast beef.
I know what you mean.
I think there's
no connection. There's no
here.
connection in our brains to eating the roast beef and where it comes from.
Exactly.
We think it comes from a packet.
Yeah.
Right.
Eamonn, tell me, a mate of mine got a 10-year-old boy. No, we run out of time very quickly. 10-year-old boy. He was eating chicken nuggets, right? And then a little chicken ran across, and this was on holiday, and he made friends with his chicken. He had no concept that the chicken nuggets he was eating were once that chicken.
Yeah.
And that is
probably weren't, to be fair.
Well, yeah, who knows what's in there, scrapings and blah. But I do think, you know, I mean, you know, people instantly knee-jerk reaction calling for these coppers to be sacked. We don't know who was telling them to do what and what other efforts.
Sorry, I've called for them to be sacked. I think that's absolutely... Wait a minute, somebody has to take the command. If I had to take a command, drive your car into that live animal there, would I do that? I would disobey the order.
But we don't know what happened, and this is the point. We don't know
what happened. What I do know is I see 50 yards or so being covered with a car.
Horrible.
Smack bang right into a young calf.
It's horrible. It is horrible. But I come back to what Isabel said as well. I do think we sometimes care more about animals in this country than we do children.
No, I don't agree with you. I think it's about time we thought about animals in the same level as we do about children.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think this item, there it is. Are we showing this?
Yes, yeah. We're just...
Right, let's see this again. Here's the situation.
It's horrible.
It's this moving. Watch. Take that strap off the screen.
If you're listening on the radio, it's the calf trotting into the road and the police car hitting
and we've cut out the
absolutely awful.
It is
absolutely
horrible.
Awful situation. And anyone who's ever run into an animal, a farm animal, whatever it is, it wrecks your car. Absolutely wrecks. Whether it's a sheep, whether it's a cow, whether it's a pig, whatever it is.
Or a deer. I've done that. That is terrifying.
Yes.
Because they're so strong.
So, you know, it's not as if this is just an easy shunt or you just are shunting it off the road. No. You didn't even make an attempt to sort of steer it or shunt it or whatever. It's just straight bang into it. I think this is absolutely appalling behaviour.
But of course, it is still alive, which is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
A bit touch and go, apparently. Yeah. Dawn, we often hear about couples when one of them dies and the other one often follows, dying of a broken heart. This story in the Times, fascinating, trying to deal with the pain of a broken heart, and apparently a headset can be the thing to fix it.
Yeah, because obviously, you know, it is a thing, isn't it? People do, if you've been with someone for a long time and they pass, then the other person passes soon after. But it's a new headset that's been invented, and evidently, we put it on like earphones, and it stimulates the brain, and with a mild electric current, and evidently it reduces the feeling of misery and grief that you get when you lose someone that's close to you. I mean, I don't understand the science behind it whatsoever, but it's a mild electric current, and it stimulates the brain in some way that helps you cope with it, which sounds amazing, because obviously, you know, the pain of grief is one of the worst things you can ever go through.
Yes.
What do they think of next, though? I mean, all these things that are coming out, I mean...
But you know what, Biggins? You know, in a few years' time, we'll be sitting here and then, oh, yeah, but that causes cancer.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
And also, I was going to just say, and finish on the point being, if I did pass away, I kind of want my husband to be upset for a while.
Yeah, yes.
I don't necessarily want him just to put a headset on and get over it, you know. Anyway, we've got to pause. We have the Defence Secretary standing by. Dawn and Biggins for now. Thank you very much indeed.
The Grant Shapps, the Defence Secretary. Grant, good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. And I was looking at you on Saturday down at the Trooping of the Colour. What an event that was. But we were talking earlier about the various weather that you had to endure. 1 minute it was windy, then rainy, then sunny, then rainy again. It was an incredible spectacle, though.
Yeah, I'd want to see them actually in training with, in particular, you remember the horses that broke loose. And I went to see the people who were looking after the horses that day and also had looked after them since, and the vets as well. And they were rehearsing the day I went to see them in torrential downpour. And so I think Saturday, where we did have about 10 minutes of very heavy rain, was probably on the lighter side of what they'd actually rehearsed for. But it was absolutely spectacular, perfect to the step in every regard, and a real tribute for Trooping the Colour for the King's birthday.
So did it ever give you, I was looking at you and I was thinking, well, there's a man who's got to balance the budgets, there's the man that's got to pay for all that we see in front of us there. And there could be people that would say, what about all this pomp and circumstance, and why do we need this? Why are we watching this? This isn't essential to the job that our armed forces do around the world. Does that present a dilemma to you at all?
Well, unlike in some other countries, the people who do that, so the members of the armed forces who do that, are also serving members of the military. So they have a sort of dual process. It's not their only job. And I have to say, actually, in terms of global reach, when you look at the people who are there, for example, I was sitting next door but one to a guy who runs NATO Europe, called Secure, Cavelli, his name is, and he's an American. And you could just sense that kind of unique pull of not, of course, just the British royalty, but also this pomp and circumstance, which I have to say is worth every single last penny in terms of international pull. And of course, massive amounts of tourism. People come to the UK just to see this stuff. But yeah, I thought it was actually spectacular and well worthwhile.
And a bit of light relief indeed from the grind of the election. Here we are, week 4, not long to go now. And your boss, Rishi Sunak, being urged to go for the jugular, particularly on Starmer, personal attacks being encouraged, we're told, by ministers over his record with Corbyn, cozying up to him, and also as a previously staunch Remainer. Are you somebody that would back that strategy?
Well, the thing is, actually, he gives us a very wide range of things that we need to warn about with Starmer. Not only, as you say, did he Corbyn twice to become Prime Minister, then seems to have dumped those things, or has he? We just don't know. But he's also coming after your taxes. He's coming after your home, your job, your car, your pension, all of which are areas of taxation they have not ruled out raising. We know about the £2,094 that they intend to raid of every household budget. But yesterday, we had their health spokesman say on TV, that's just the start of it. It's not all in our manifesto. So we know that they're hiding stuff as well. So, look, I think there is a lot to be concerned about. Starmer is the only other person who can conceivably walk into Downing Street. And they are planning the highest taxes this country will have ever known.
And we will speak to Labour about all of that. I suppose some people might be raising their eyebrows about, the proposals that you're putting forward in the manifesto, £17 billion of tax cuts. Some people saying this was a Truss manifesto on steroids. How on earth are we going to afford that? The IFS calling it implausible.
Well, all our tax, up to £17 billion for hardworking people, are fully funded. So we've said exactly where that money will come from. Some of it from tax fraud, some of it from making sure that we don't allow the welfare budget to continue ballooning as it has post-COVID. So we've actually set out precisely where we'll get the money from. Not so when it comes to Starmer's Labour manifesto. That contains implicit tax rises on your home, on your job, on your car, on your pension. And if you want to avoid those taxes, then you need to do that by voting Conservative. Or if you believe Labour are going to win, then you need to start saving now, because this is going to be a miserable 5 years ahead with them raising taxes to record levels in this country.
And not gathering taxes from traditional sources. I mean, this oil and gas ban, you think it creates a massive billions of pounds in a black hole in lost revenues. So therefore, that has to be paid for, I presume.
That's right. So this oil and gas plan they have, which is basically just, get this, they want to stop digging the oil and gas in the North Sea where we have supply still, and instead import it from abroad, which costs more, contains more CO2 because you have to transport it as well, and it's not dug in such an efficient way. And the difference is about £4.5 billion lost in taxation. So they need to now raise that £4.5 billion somewhere else instead. And this is what is so devastating about Labour's plans. They are hiding the tax rises that they intend to make. They won't deny them either. By the way, they come after your home because they're going to reband the council tax. They're doing it in Wales, where Labour's in power already. They're going to tax your jobs because they're not going to follow us on the reductions in national insurance, which has already saved people £900 a year and will save people more. They'll go after your car because they're going to go back to their green targets, which go so fast that every expert, and I used to be energy secretary, so I know about this, every single expert says will increase taxation if you go that way, or cost to the consumer. And they'll go after your pension because they haven't followed us on the triple lock plus. Now, that's where we've said we'll keep pensions out of taxation by making sure that as the pension
if I may
rises,
interrupt, because we are
it's
short on
tax-free.
time. Apologies for interrupting, but we are limited in time. You know, you talk about all of the problems in their manifesto, but I come back to my point about these £17 billion in tax cuts. You say they're fully costed. You're doing that from clawing back tax avoidance and the welfare state. Well, we've already heard that before. You've been in power for 14 years. If it was that simple, perhaps you should have done it already. And that might be why the Technipol is seeing that Rishi Sunak is not trusted on tax anymore. But just lastly, I really want to bring up this row between David Cameron and Nigel Farage over who is responsible for destroying the Conservative Party. Do you think David Cameron was right to call Nigel Farage, who seems to be doing very well in the polls at the moment, a populist who has inflammatory language and hopeless policy?
So, sorry, just step back one quick moment on the ability for us to do these tax reductions and therefore save the money. The ONS, the Office of National Statistics, says that it is entirely plausible that we can reduce tax fraud by $6 billion a year. We've already been doing it by $6.4 billion a year, to answer that question. But look, secondly, when it comes to whether it's Nigel Farage or Reform or whatever else, there are only two people who can end up being Prime Minister after this election. It's either Rishi Sunak or it's Keir Starmer. And if you don't want Keir Starmer and all the risks that brings, including those massive tax rises on your pensions and other things, then you must make sure you vote in a way which doesn't allow Labour in, and that means voting Conservative. And I'll leave it right there because, you know, that is the simple choice in front of us. Everything else is a route to Keir Starmer going into Downing Street.
OK, Defence Secretary Grant Shapps, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Right, well, we say goodbye. Thank you, Dawn and Chris. You guys will be back in about 40 minutes' time. So until then, thank you very much indeed. We had a good talk about the weather over the weekend. What's it going to be like for the day and the week ahead? Here's Honor.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, there's still plenty of sunny spells and showers in the forecast this week, but from midweek onwards, plenty of dry weather and we'll even start to see some sunshine. A cloudy start for Monday, though, across the central slice of the UK, with some showers starting to break through. And on the whole, a rather unsettled day with sunny spells and showers. The driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, where we'll see plenty of sunshine. It may just turn hazy by the time we reach the afternoon, but this is where we're going to catch the best of the temperatures, highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius by the afternoon. Later on into the afternoon and through into the evening, we will continue to see plenty of showers across the country, and they may be heavy at times. You may even hear the odd rumble of thunder in the northeast. And lighter winds too, which means they're going to move through fairly slowly, so you may catch some persistent heavy downpours at times. Largely dry across Northern Ireland, but mostly cloudy day. Still some showers in the north of England. But further south is where we'll start to see that drier weather. The odd shower here and there, but otherwise plenty of late evening sunshine on offer. Through into the evening, it is going to be a largely drier night compared to recent nights. Plenty of clear spells too, which means it's going to be turning cooler. May even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the morning. But it is going to be staying largely cloudy across Scotland, and it's going to be quite damp here too. But that means that's where it's going to be milder. Whereas under those clearer spells, it is going to be a cooler night than recent nights. Now, overall on Tuesday, it is going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still those showers, though, generally developing through the course of the morning in northeast England, and quite a damp day across Scotland too. And once again, we could catch the odd heavy downpour, may even hear the odd rumble of thunder, and a chance we may see some rain in the far southeast. But that's generally where we'll see the warmer weather once again. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News. The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed westbound along St Mary's Gate in Sheffield after an accident. Bramall Lane is also closed on the approach to the roundabout. In Staffordshire, Keelings Road in Stoke-on-Trent is partly blocked by an accident. On the M4 west of London, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed westbound with some animals on the motorway between junctions 3 and 4 from Heston to Heathrow, causing delays. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues getting onto the M25 again this morning because of roadworks. In Dorset, the A35 is partly blocked each way where a car caught fire between the football ground roundabout and Monkey's Jump roundabout in Dorchester. In Devon on the A38, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident near to the Rattery turnoff. And in Cornwall, the A30 is closed each way between Chiverton Cross and Summercourt, west of Indian Queens, where weekend roadworks have overrun. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Don't miss out on your chance to win our Summer Spectacular. And have we got a prize for you? First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning. Fast approaching 7 o'clock on this Monday, the 17th of June.
You're tuned in to Breakfast here on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
Leading for us this morning, England kick off their Euros campaign with a win against Serbia as fans celebrate their hero, Jude Bellingham.
Well, it wasn't the emphatic start to the Euros we wanted, but a great goal from arguably now our most important player, Jude Bellingham, sealed it for England, as Sven-Göran Eriksson famously said, first half good, second half not so good, but a win's a win, and it's Denmark next on Thursday.
The Prime Minister is urged to rescue his campaign by targeting Keir Starmer as he warns of tax black holes in Labour's manifesto.
The Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is taking centre stage in Labour's campaign today, promising 650,000 new jobs to make Britain better off.
And the Reform Party launches its policies today, refusing to call them a manifesto, but instead they'll be termed a social contract with the people.
And an investigation from GB News' Mark White has revealed that nearly all firearms used by criminals are being brought in from abroad.
Hello there. A mixture of sunny spells and showers in the forecast, but overall a drier day compared to the weekend, so stay tuned for all the details.
So last night, the big result, England have beaten Serbia 1-0. Opening match at the Euros. Jude Bellingham, the hero, of the night.
Yes, and Paul Coit is here with us to tell us all about it. Just 20 years old, and the nation's hopes all in his hands.
It really is. And like I just said, I think he's our most important player now. So mature, such a good player. But
handles himself really well in interviews as well.
Everything about him is so impressive. You look at this, is this a 20-year-old kid? No. I mean, it's someone that is just so important for England. And if we are going to win the Euros, if England are going to win the Euros, which is a possibility, there's no doubt about that. It wasn't as impressive yesterday as it could be. I see the look on your face.
They're not going to win the Euros. You look at last night and you say there's the winners of the Euro Championship.
It was, you know what, I'm never one to throw cliches around, but Eamonn, it was a game of two halves, I found. First half, England were very good, I thought. But the thing is, it's that cutting edge. That's what I want to see a little bit more of. We've seen Germany play over, like what they did to Scotland. We saw Spain play so well yesterday. I know it's momentum. It's always going to take time. England in Euros and in major championships, of course, we haven't won one since 1966. It's always a slow burner, and you often see it we've seen it in France in the World Cup. They'll start slow and then it builds
It's finding that team momentum, isn't it? Because where you have these individuals, you've got someone like Harry Kane, who wasn't really part of the team last night.
Well, that was a tactical thing.
It was a tactical thing because he was so far up front, and a lot of people are going to go on social media and Harry Kane's this and Harry Kane's that.
Harry Kane is class.
He is a class. He's still the best striker in the world for me. And it was almost... But the thing is, he's also a great midfielder. He's a great defender. He was a clearance off the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even made in the second half.
Enough.
So he's a fantastic player and a true captain. We are going to see... Obviously, a lot of fuss made about this game because it's the first game. Denmark, and then it's Slovenia. What it's going to be... We're peaking, then it's going to go down a little, then we'll qualify, and when we get... And I say when we get to the knockouts... That's when the momentum truly will start to build. So let's not get too excited yet. It's early days. It wasn't that great. It wasn't the most exciting win, but...
A win's a win. There we go. But it wasn't a win, because it just changed to golf quickly.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't a win for Rory McIlroy, who finished second in the UGA Open, the US Open.
Yeah.
And, you know, Rory's going through a lot personally and professionally at the moment as well. But he was 2 up, 5 to play.
Yeah, 2 up, 5 to play. I mean, earlier on in the round, he was 3 shots behind Bryson DeChambeau, and who plays the Live Golf, and he's a former winner. Look at the state of Rory's face there. He's not happy. 2 shots up with 5 to play. Goes to the 16th. Misses a 2-foot putt. Goes to the 18th. I mean, he's sunk. I've got a fact for you. 496 out of 496 putts inside 3 feet all this season, and he misses 2 of them, and the big one on the 18th, and so he loses by a stroke. And so when you're 3 shots up with 5 to play, you'd think someone like Rory is going to walk it, and that's when it starts playing with your mind.
But that's
what happens.
That's gutting to lose by a stroke, you know, a major like that.
And he hasn't won a major in 10 years.
Yeah.
And you could see it. It was in his hands. And Bryson DeChambeau, even on the 18th, put a shot in the bunker, and you're thinking, well, maybe there's a chance of a playoff. But, you know, there was a lot of late sport for me last night. That's what I'm
You're doing very well.
That's what you're paid for.
Oh, yeah, is that what it is? I forgot. I thought I was just here for fun. But anyway, poor Rory. 5 weeks until the Open, which is happening at Troon.
OK.
So.
Look forward to it. Thanks very much, Paul. Right, believe it or not, just 2 weeks to go until Election Day, and that race could take a ruthless turn as reports are emerging that Conservative ministers are pressuring the Prime Minister to personally attack Sir Keir Starmer and go for the jugular.
Well, it seems scrutinising Labour's manifesto isn't cutting it, with desperate Tories demanding Sunak calls out Keir Starmer's previous support of Jeremy Corbyn and a history of backing a second EU referendum.
But is it all too late for the Conservatives? Let's get the thoughts this morning of spectators. James Heal, good morning to you. I don't know if you saw our interview with Grant Shapps just a few moments ago. I put that point to him, is it time to go for the jugular? He dodged it in characteristic style and focused still more on the tax black hole within what he believes the Labour manifesto. So he clearly doesn't think it is time to go for the jugular.
Well, I think that, you know, Grant Shapps is one of the government's best communicators. Difficult to sometimes land a blow on him, and so I think that he, for instance, is happy right now talking about tax. But there are a lot of Tories privately behind the scenes saying the Prime Minister should go much harder on Keir Starmer. I think at the start of this campaign there was a real aspiration to kind of build it around the Prime Minister, around Rishi Sunak, but clearly his brand, I think, has really taken a battering over the past 18 months. What was hoped was he would come in and bring the Tory brand up. Actually, what happened is the Tory brand has focused like an anchor and sunk his ratings, which were previously pretty high. So I think that, you know, this is very much now a shift in focus where the campaign isn't going to be about the Prime Minister, it's going to be about Labour's weaknesses. And that's why you see, for every social media adverts, I think 4 and 5 of them now are anti-Labour on the Conservatives page because they think that negative campaigning works.
But it's not shifting the dial so far. Look, the latest Salvation MRP poll over the weekend had the Tories down to just 72 seats. And a Techni poll had Rishi Sunak not trusted on tax anymore. And again, I was asking Grant Shapps, how are you going to pay for £17 billion of cuts to tax, which we all want, of course, don't we? But he was basically pointing to welfare cuts, further welfare cuts and tax avoidance. Well, is that plausible? Have they got the right to stand there and criticise the Labour black holes in their manifesto when theirs is so loose?
And I would argue not, because also even under the Conservative tax plans, the tax burden will go up over the next 5 years. Absolutely. And so, you know, for all the times the Conservatives can say, well, it will be rising a bit faster under Labour, people will say, well, it's still going up under you. Of course, the other also got on defence, for instance, this commitment to 2.5% GDP by 2030. You know, that's going to be paid for apparently by a 70,000 reduction in headcount in Whitehall. Well, we all know, you know, it's not about the tax cuts, it's about the spending cuts. And this is the problem that Liz Truss's government had, which is that you can talk about, you know, front-loading the tax cuts, but actually how are you going to pay for that? And it's the question I'd asked Reform today at their press conference, which is going to be, you want £50 billion worth of tax cuts. Everyone loves tax cuts, but it's where's the spending cuts going to come from? Is it on different public services? Is it in terms of different commitments? Where are we going to cut it? And at the moment, right now, it's welfare and health, and those are two of the most popular things in the country.
So Reform's going to outline £50 billion in tax cuts today. Interesting. OK, well, that's, I think, 1 o'clock in South Wales. Interesting they've chosen South Wales as well. They're trying to sort of go after the Labour vote there rather than somewhere traditionally like the Blue Wall.
Yes, I mean, Keir Starmer, of course, previously said that Welsh Labour was his blueprint for what he would do in power in Westminster, and so I think this is an attempt really to try and, you know, put the guns on Labour after a very successful few weeks making inroads into the Tory vote. OK,
well, we look forward to seeing what's unveiled there. Can we just talk about Wes Streeting's absolutely disastrous interview yesterday on The Round, where he seemed to, as I think the Mail have it this morning, let the cat out the bag on tax, saying that this, what we've laid out in our manifesto, is not the sum total of our spending plans. So you can read that, can't you, as saying they're going to raise taxes at some point?
I think that's very much reading between the lines what people are thinking. And, you know, actually, if you talk to most economists, they will say whoever is in power will have to raise tax. I mean, this was in response to the Nuffield Trust saying, look, you know, the spending on the NHS is only going to go up less than it did under the coalition years and the so-called austerity years of 2010 to 2015. You know, therefore, is this going to be enough? And Wes Streeting was saying, oh, don't worry, we're going to, you know, this isn't the full extent of our spending. I expect what we're going to see is Labour are going to win a big majority in 2 weeks' time. They're going to come in, they're going to look at the books, and they're going to try and find this money from somewhere else. So I think the Tories will have legitimate questions to ask Labour about spending.
And where do you think those other places will be? Because they've already ruled out income tax, VAT and national insurance, but things like capital gains tax seems to be odds on their favourite, not least because Starmer's aide liked this social media post which said it would be politically wise to increase that levy. I mean, they backed away from that and said, no, because they don't want to commit to anything publicly. But behind closed doors, that does seem to be a strong favourite, and also possibly council tax. I mean, our council tax is already astronomical.
Yeah, I think capital gains, a re-evaluation of council tax as well, also looking at savings rates as well. These are all different things, I think, that are going to be considered by Labour because, you know, they've got clearly a sort of pro-spending bias in their party's history. They've obviously made a huge number of commitments. And I think that, you know, over the next 5 years as well, if you look at public attitudes, you know, people are happy for spending for tax to go up as long as they're not paying it. So this is why you see this constant formulation about no working people. I suspect it'll be the upper middle and upper classes that'll be the ones who get hit the most.
We should mention the Lib Dems in all of this. The only party openly seeking to reverse Brexit. Significant outline, publicly significant tax increases, £27 billion worth. Is that why Sir Davy has to do these silly stunts all the time to distract from what is, you know, pretty unpalatable offering?
And as we saw yesterday in an interview in the BBC, which is that one of the sub-postmasters had some difficult questions for him, you know, it means that rather than talking about Davy's own role in the post office scandal, we're then talking about him doing silly pictures like that and talking about the sewage scandal. So it works well for him, politically advantageous. But I do think the Lib Dems, you know, this is much more about tailoring their manifesto policy to try and meet what the public want to see on things like public spending.
OK, James Heal, as always, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
We've been going out and about around the country asking you what you think of the whole election situation. Now we've just got 2 weeks left. Today we hear from a chap called Michael. Michael's from Falkirk, and this is his thoughts, what he has to say.
I'm Michael, I'm 36 and I'm from Falkirk.
The three most important things for me in the coming election are education, our relationship with the EU, and seeing overall improvements in the political system. I've voted for different parties in the past, and I'm pretty close to making a decision this time. Scotland has a rich history of being an innovative country. You know, the education system's not just about teaching you English, maths and sciences. It's about teaching you life skills, you know, about the value of things, you know, and that's why I feel like that space needs to be very well protected and very well, you know, funded. I feel like Brexit was like a political stunt. I think almost until it happened, people didn't believe it was going to happen. Realistically, you know, we had open trade with, you know, one of the largest markets in the world, you know, and we took ourselves out of that and somehow were promised this economic boom, and the lies that were told, that's a lot to do with the damage that's been done to, you know, my feelings on trusting politics and trusting politicians. It's no good choices, you know, realistically, just because so much faith has been lost in the political system.
What would it take for you to trust a politician?
For them to start looking at their jobs as more of what it should be, which is, you know, people should want to be politicians not because it pays some huge amount of money. It should be to sort of serve the public and want to do that job and want to be the country they live in a good place. And that's something I can get behind.
There we go. Do you share his views? Let us know. Get in touch on your side. I'm just having a little scan through on all of these this morning, and we will try and reflect as many of those as we can throughout the course.
There are so many of you who are undecided. I mean, it's something like 20% or so of people who just have no idea how they're going to vote. And indeed, if you will bother voting, I think the big danger from this election is that we just could see people disengaged from politics.
Do you know what I'm always fascinated is whether people vote along a sort of American lines of, are you thinking about Starmer versus Sunak, or are you actually thinking about your own constituency and your own MP? Have they been there a long time? Have they been a good, strong performer? Have you liked what they've done for you? I always wonder which way people vote. Do you tend, well, you don't tend to vote, do you? But I wonder whether or not people go for the leader, a sort of presidential election, or this sort of constituency approach that we have. I'm quite intrigued by that.
That is a good point. That is a good point. Let us know. Let us know what you think about that. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming in on this Monday morning. This is how things are shaping up. And a major police operation took place in Hamburg yesterday ahead of the Euros. German police shot a man threatening officers with an axe. According to reports, the incidents took place near a fan zone for supporters of Holland. The attacker is being treated for his injuries.
The European Union has vowed to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes to secure peace. The announcement was made during a two-day peace summit in Switzerland, which called for Russia to give Ukraine full control of nuclear plants and ports, for food not to be weaponised against Ukrainians, and for all prisoners of war to be released.
A 10-month-old calf was run down by a Surrey police car, and it's now being nursed back to health, according to the family who own the farm it escaped from. The family described the incident as disgusting, before warning that the young cow could still die from shock. It comes after the Surrey police officer who was driving the vehicle who struck the calf has been taken off frontline duties.
The number of pubs disappearing from our high streets and villages has jumped. Almost 250 closing in the first 3 months of this year. It means around 80 pubs shut per month, representing a 56% increase compared to this time last year. Publicans blame high energy and food costs, tighter consumer spending, and the eye-watering tax burden facing small businesses.
Now, that business of pubs closing down, 80 a month, and once they're gone, they don't come back.
And they're so often such lovely buildings, don't you think? They're sometimes the prettiest building in a village.
They all become apartments.
And they've all got beautiful flowers, and they're a little community hub. But I suppose my question is, when was the last time you went to your local pub? I really need to support mine. I was in there at the weekend. In fact, I should say I bumped into some of my neighbours who are GB News viewers and watch us between 7 and 9 every day. So a little wave to you. It was lovely to meet you. But you must support your local pub, because if you don't, they may well have to close their doors for good.
Well, it's another deterioration of society, high streets in general, and, you know, and not all pubs obviously are in high streets, but it really is an incredible situation. And it's like people who wish for the end of the BBC. you'll be sorry when it's gone, I always say. And pubs are the same thing if you don't support them. And pubs used to be only for drinking. Now, of course, they seem to be primarily for eating as well. But they are a huge centre for drawing community together. That is the thing, community, and that's what we're losing
But you can just see their financial pressures just unbearable.
Hello, good morning to Honor. She's got the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, there's still plenty of sunny spells and showers in the forecast this week, but from midweek onwards, plenty of dry weather and we'll even start to see some sunshine. A cloudy start for Monday, though, across the central slice of the UK, with some showers starting to break through. And on the whole, a rather unsettled day with sunny spells and showers. The driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, where we'll see plenty of sunshine. It may just turn hazy by the time we reach the afternoon, but this is where we're going to catch the best of the temperatures, highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius by the afternoon. Later on into the afternoon and through into the evening, we will continue to see plenty of showers across the country, and they may be heavy at times. You may even hear the odd rumble of thunder in the northeast. And lighter winds too, which means they're going to move through fairly slowly, so you may catch some persistent heavy downpours at times. Largely dry across Northern Ireland, but a mostly cloudy day. Still some showers in the north of England. But further south is where we'll start to see that drier weather. The odd shower here and there, but otherwise plenty of late evening sunshine on offer. Through into the evening, it is going to be a largely drier night compared to recent nights. Plenty of clear spells too, which means it's going to be turning cooler. May even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the morning. But it is going to be staying largely cloudy across Scotland, and it's going to be quite damp here too. But that means that's where it's going to be milder. Whereas under those clearer spells, it is going to be a cooler night than recent nights. Now, overall on Tuesday, it is going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still those showers, though, generally developing through the course of the morning in northeast England, and quite a damp day across Scotland too. And once again, we could catch the odd heavy downpour, may even hear the odd rumble of thunder, and a chance we may see some rain in the far southeast. But that's generally where we'll see the warmer weather once again. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Giveaway, the Great British Giveaway, and our chance to cheer you up.
Yeah, £16,000 worth of prizes. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? £15,000 worth of cash, and then lots of treats as well. This could all be yours, but you've got to be in it to win it.
Don't miss out on your chance to win our Summer Spectacular. And have we got a prize for you? First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your Summer Spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Indeed. Still to come, gun crime. It's on the rise, but where exactly are the weapons coming from? Find out from GB News' Mark White after this.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's midday. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said, "Storm, you made my argument for me."
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We've got a big royal exclusive for you this morning. It's been an eventful few days here, royal-wise. The Princess of Wales appearance at Tribune of the Colour and the Royal Children's first ever social media post. Well, we thought, who could we get to talk about this?
Who better?
And we thought nobody better than Royal Showbiz reporter from the US of A, Kinsey Schofield, who joins us here in the flesh. Lovely to see you. And you deliberately, you see a lot of royal events coming up and you think, I'm getting over there, I'm going to report on this firsthand.
Oh, you bet. Well, I mean, this is such an exciting time for the royal family. And, you know, Americans, we just sit back and envy. The choreography, the outfits, everything, that we can't do it like you do it.
And you couldn't have timed it better. To come over for trooping, it was will she, won't she, will she, won't she. Oh, my goodness, she did.
She did.
And how fantastic to see her looking, well, a little bit frail, perhaps, but well and glorious.
I heard someone next to me, because I got there at 6 a.m. in the rain. I was going to be up front. I heard someone say, she looks like a porcelain doll, and I thought that was a compliment. She's so beautiful. And
she's a doll.
She was so engaged with the children when she passed by me the first time, which I thought was sweet, because you know they've got some extra mom time lately, and that made me smile to see them all excited and happy to be with each other in the carriage.
That's lovely. It's good. You'll know the name of the kids. I won't. There she's there.
Louis, George and Charlotte.
Well, whoever the oldest one
George,
is. He's always so well behaved, does everything by the book. And then the other little terror just pulls the curtain strings and does all sorts of weird things. I mean, that's not the pictures from where they were.
That was last year, actually. Yeah.
But anyway, so the little misbehaving one, but she's there, she adds that reassurance. And William, I thought, carried himself off very well, riding a horse.
In the rain, in the pouring rain. But also there was that, Isabel's the only one that's going to recognize this, but there was a very sweet moment and that was captured on film of William and Catherine looking at each other, and it just absolutely melts your heart.
Yeah, was that a Chris Jackson photograph?
I believe
so.
It was either that or one of the Hussein brothers. And then there's another picture of Prince George looking at his mother and
whilst
father
they were
looking.
having a little, I know, I did totally clock that. And I also loved the moment the cameras caught Princess Kate stroking Charlotte's hair. Just a little tender motherly moment. Anyway, it's great to see them as a family all together, and first time we've properly seen her this year, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So fantastic. And lots of royal events to look forward to. Trooping sort of starting the season almost. You've got Ascot this week, not going just once, but twice.
That's right. And
who's attending for the royals, do we know?
We don't officially know yet, because we do know that they like to break after trooping and to go away for a little while for holiday. They're also taking a step back for the general election out of respect to the election. So I'm not sure who we'll see. I'm hoping to see Prince William on Thursday, and I do believe we'll see Queen Camilla there, because she's absolutely passionate about racing, so that's exciting.
What about trooping on Saturday? We were talking about how the weather just kept changing. It was
I'm so sorry about the British weather. It's not normally like this.
Sunshine, wind, then it was all happening. But you were there from 6 a.m. So how does one get tickets to watch Trooping of the Colour? I was just wondering who the crowd was there.
Well, they all looked beautiful. I was not that girl. I was just one of the people on the parade line.
Oh, right.
But
they tend to be wives and partners, don't they, of the military?
Absolutely, and they all looked stunning. But I came prepared. I had a big, heavy raincoat that I'd throw over my head. But I made the mistake of wearing jellies. Again, Isabel's only going to get this reference. And walk. Good it's these. They're just little wet shoes little plastic shoes that I had full of water for the rest of the day.
A trench foot at the end of it.
Yes.
Father's Day, though, on Sunday, we saw lovely posts, the first ever from the royal children, William, George, Charlotte and Louis, and also posts from William showing sort of tender moments with his dad as a child.
Yeah, this was I love this photo, by the way. I believe that the Princess of Wales actually took this picture of all of the children and Prince William, and it gives us kind of a glimpse of how tight they are, what a comfort they are to each other, and that this is a family that's really desperately in love with each other. But we also saw a picture we'd never seen before of Prince William and the King from 1984. Look at how sweet that is. We love you, Pa. And this is kind of a rare photo. So I was thrilled to see this online. And aside from trooping, I felt like these pictures gave us, a little glimpse into the fact that this family's tighter than ever.
Yeah, I think
I think quite the opposite, actually.
Wow, here goes David.
We're looking, there is no Prince Harry.
But they are tighter than ever, because they've accepted their circumstances.
Tighter without Harry?
Yes, they've accepted their circumstances. They are rallying around each other through trauma, through grief. And I think that they absolutely adore each other today.
Yeah, and I think the bond between Catherine and Charles has deepened with their cancer shared diagnosis, and William obviously stepping in as kind of protector of all of them has tightened that bond. And where Harry has gone, that bond has got closer.
Absolutely.
Lovely to see.
No, I think that this is good. This is good for the family.
Yeah, well, that's good. Will you have yourself a great week of royal things?
Let's have lots of you this week. We hope to see lots more of you.
I love you too.
Oh.
Kinsey Schofield, thank you very much indeed, bringing us the American take on royal matters. Thank you very much.
Now,
indeed.
coming up, here's something I can get behind. English Wine Week. We visited one vineyard as they open up for tours and tastings this week. You're tuned into Breakfast. Stay with us for more on that after this.
Cheers.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed westbound along St Mary's Gate in Sheffield after an accident. Bramall Lane is also closed on the approach to the roundabout. On the M25 from Essex into Hertfordshire, there are long anti-clockwise delays leading away from junction 27 for the M11 to a mile after junction 25 for the A10 because of a lane closure for roadworks. It's also very slow clockwise through Kent on the approach to junction 5 for the M26 because of roadworks, with queues too on the M26 approaching the M25. In Dorset, the A A35 is partly blocked where a car caught fire between the football ground roundabout and the A37 at the Monkeys Jump roundabout in Dorchester, causing delays. In Devon on the A38, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident near the Rattery turnoff. And in Cornwall, the A30 is closed each way between Cheverton Cross and Summercourt, west of Indian Queens, where weekend roadworks have overrun. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's midday. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but actually it's about you.
And we won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear
all sides
as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's election channel.
Now,
there.
Yes, the popularity of English wine is on the rise in Britain, and vineyards are now the fastest growing edible agricultural crop sector in England, which is great news.
So ahead of potatoes and cabbages and parsnips and all sorts of things.
Strawberries.
Wine, grapes are doing the business. And let's go to Jack Carson. He's been to a vineyard in Warwickshire to find out more.
A taste of the British countryside, English wine. In the 1980s, there were just 210 hectares of vineyards across the UK. Now there's more than 4,000. In the heart of North Warwickshire sits Blabers Hall Wine Estate. First harvesting in 2018, this vineyard now produces 10 varieties of wine. Run by husband and wife Clark and Adele Adams, they say the popularity of English wine has never been higher.
So the interest in English wine is huge. A lot of people will say that they've never tried it, but once they try it, they're completely converted over to it. Like I say, we do wine tastings throughout the year. They're sold out. Because people are interested, people are very willing to give local produce a go. I think English wines are very different to European wines. They're much cleaner, they're quite fresh tasting, and I think that's something that comes across in the wines as well.
An estimated 68% of British wine sold is sparkling, and annual production of all varieties in the UK is expected to reach between 25 and 29 million bottles by 2032. But as businesses across the country have felt the pinch, selling their product in a competitive global market is where Clark and Adele believe they're being held back.
This is our Solaris Dry White, our Phoenix Dry White, and our Hemlingford White Medium Dry.
Alcohol duty has been frozen by the government and reformed, but that's left them having to pay £2.67 in duty on every bottle. Across the Channel in France, producers pay just 35 cents.
It's the age-old thing, tax, and wines are heavily taxed with duty and VAT. When we're comparing them to sort of our continental friends, they often pay zero duty, so we're at a very big loss from the start. And unfortunately, we have to pass it on to our customers. It somewhat restricts us when we're competing against imported foreign wines and various other drinks.
With the general election fast approaching, this vineyard in the West Midlands hopes the next government won't bottle it on alcohol duty. Jack Carson, GB News, Warwickshire.
With that, we go to the break. Still to come, Christopher Biggins and Dawn Neeson, right after this.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
D-Day was shrouded in secrecy. Ken Hay was days away from landing in Normandy and still didn't know what was happening.
I don't think we really appreciated what we were going into. Actually, on D-Day, I was on a 30-mile route march, and we see the planes going over and that sort of thing. And we realised that wherever they were going, then we got the news that, in fact, it was Normandy, and we knew we were scheduled for that.
He arrived on Juno Beach at Coursieux-sur-Mer a few days after the main assault. The soldier's role was to push forward into enemy territory.
I didn't land on D-Day. I landed shortly after in June. I was in the infantry, so I was a rifle and I was up the front.
While on night patrol on July 7th, his unit was attacked.
My brother was a corporal in the same platoon, and he was out with me. He got back. 16 of us out of 30 got back. 5 of us got captured, and 9 got killed.
Germans put him to work in a POW camp in Zabas, Poland. With Soviets advancing, the prisoners were forced to march for 1,000 miles.
At one point along there, my leg was chopped. I lay down in the snow. If it hadn't been for 2 guys who fell back in the column and picked me up, I'd have just gone to sleep and frozen to death. 2 American tanks turned up on the 22nd of April, Sunday afternoon, and we were liberated.
Ken feels pride for the role he played in Normandy and thanks God for keeping him alive.
People say, why did you volunteer for the services? It was a completely different atmosphere then. You did your bit.
The People's Channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that. Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
That calf that was run over by the police car. Rebecca, good morning, Rebecca. I hope the calf's put into an animal sanctuary now after its ordeal. It won't happen, but wouldn't it be good if the policeman who did this horrendous act paid for the calf to live out its natural life in that sanctuary?
We've also been talking about the demise of pubs in this country with that report that I think 80 a month are closing. John says, when I buy a round in Leicestershire, it costs 30 quid. When I come down to London, it's 70 quid. People just can't afford it anymore.
Sure. Cost of living, right. Ernie, we're skint. Why are we still sending foreign aid to India, to Pakistan, to China, all with nuclear and space programmes? The foreign aid budget is over 12 billion. Where are we getting it from? a money tree. Well, that foreign aid budget, I've always had a thing about it. I just don't see the value in it. I don't think politicians tell us the truth, what it's about. Is it to buy influence? What is it? Let us know what you think it is for. But politicians always, they haven't got money for this and that and whatever, but they've got money for the foreign aid budget.
Yeah, I agree.
All the time. Do you agree, Biggins?
Honestly, I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
We're suffering so much here. People with food bags, you know, going to... It's just awful. We send all that money.
So what it is, I ask politicians all the time, so what is the foreign aid budget for? Tell us. Well, it's for all this rubbish. It will be for buying somebody off somewhere, buying cooperation, that they don't start a war somewhere, or that, I don't know what the heck, but it's never, if they would just be honest and say, folks, listen, this is preventing war, or this is getting us this or that, whatever, you might say, OK, right, I understand that.
And as a nation, we do all these charities, making so much money for them, sending all that money to them as well. They're getting a double whammy.
OK, that's Christopher Biggins. Dawn Neeson's with Christopher as they review big stories in the paper today. And Dawn, I want to start by talking about trans rights. OK, this is Tony Blair.
Yes,
giving
absolutely.
his two halfpence worth.
He's given an interview to Holyrood magazine, tackling the subject that very many people in the Labour Party seem to have a problem with. 2 years ago, remember, Yvette Cooper, the Shadow Home Secretary, said the issue of the transgender versus women's rights issue was a rabbit hole. And Sir Keir Starmer initially struggled with the question of what is a woman before stating that 99.9% of women haven't got a penis. No, 100% of us. Just putting that right. Anyway, Tony Blair's actually come off the fence on this one and said, I don't understand why this is such a big issue. Of course, I can say a woman is with a vagina and a man is with a penis. I think that is quite clearly. The point is that if people want to reassign their gender, this is what he's saying, that's fine, but women's spaces must be secure. All of that is absolutely fine. But what he doesn't then go on to explain is how he treats people that identify as trans when it does come to prisons and hospital wards and things like that. I mean, it's all very well saying biologically a woman is a woman, a man is a man. Yes, absolutely.
But what about these people who have actually got the birth certificate now changed?
Exactly
legally
this, and
say
that's
that
the
they
problem.
are, and what do you do with those?
So, he doesn't go into that, Isabel. He does say, look, I don't understand what the confusion is. Well, quite clearly everybody else does, because it's like, what do you do with these people who have reassigned their gender, have a birth certificate? Where do you put them when it comes to women's safe
And it's
spaces?
interesting, we saw Kemi Badenoch attacking Labour on this again over the weekend, because Rosie Duffield, who also got criticised by Sir Keir Starmer in the past because she had said, you know, a woman is a woman and only a woman can be a woman, and he said she ought to apologise. Well, she pulled out of a hustings over safety concerns over the weekend.
Yes.
Lord Cashman, a Labour peer, called her lazy, and Kemi Badenoch came out and said, goodness me, is this what people who stand up for women can expect in the Labour Party? Intimidation and abuse towards from their own.
Big supporter of Rosie. She's the only Labour MP in Kent. She has had no support from Keir Starmer. When he went down there, he didn't even meet with her or talk with her. And she really speaks out for women's rights and safe spaces. So, but she's getting a lot of stick. And what Michael Cashman said, I think, was frankly appalling.
Well, Gordon Ramsay wasn't in a safe space. He was on his bike. And there's pictures throughout the newspapers today, and he's knocked off his bike. Luckily, he was wearing a helmet, and he's really badly bruised.
Very bad. He calls the bruise a purple potato, which is a celebrity chef remark, I suppose. But, I mean, it is terrible. I mean, you can't believe how badly bruised he was. And, of course, you know, I've got no favour for cyclists. I think cyclists have ruined London, and it's disgusting what happens. But anyway, that's my bête noire on that. But I think he's right that he's still alive today because he wore a helmet. You know, and I mean, I don't know how, it doesn't say in the paper the circumstances of it, but I mean, you know, when you as a driver of an electric car, you go around London and you stop at traffic lights and they go through them, they go across when people are crossing the road. I mean, they are terrible.
Well, also, you see, obviously, this huge proliferation of these bikes that you can hire, what used to be called Boris bikes, but now Lime bikes and everything else in between. Of course, they don't come with helmets.
No.
And a lot of people will hire a bike, decide that they're just going to do a quick, short journey, which is great. It eases the pressure on the tube or whatever, but actually means these people are putting themselves in harm's way without proper safety measures.
It's very dangerous. As a cyclist, a very safe cyclist, I don't jump lights. I always wear a helmet.
Are you a cyclist?
Yeah, don't look at me like that. Oh my God, you're going to cancel me
Friendship
now.
over.
Yeah, that's it. Oh my God, I'm so cancelled by Biggins. But yeah, I also have insurance because I used to do race cycling. But there are so many dangerous cyclists, so I do understand why people get fed up with us. However, I will just say about the electric vehicles. You just say driving an electric car. If you're a cyclist, they are impossible to hear. If you're cycling properly, you rely on every sense you have, and you can't hear electric cars. So they're making cycling more dangerous because you just can't hear what's coming up behind you in the traffic.
Well, they should be more aware, though.
But do you know, actually, it's separate from the cycling argument, but just from a kid's perspective at the school pickup, you don't hear the electric cars in the car park, and it really, you have to have your wits about you every minute, because you just think, where's that car come from? I do think they need to address that.
Well, I think they're thinking of adding a sound.
100% needs to be done. Just especially when there's risk of children. I think that needs to be carefully looked at.
Congratulations to Daniel Radcliffe, the Harry Potter actor. He's won a Tony Award there for the stage, aren't they, Chris?
Yeah, they are, and I'm thrilled because, not because I think Daniel Radcliffe's very good, but he is in a show called Merrily We Roll Along, which about 30 years ago, I think, I saw a preview of it when I was in New York, and I absolutely loved it. I came home and it was off, because the critics hated it, the public didn't want to go and see it, so it was a major, major flop. But I think it's one of Stephen Sondheim's best musicals, and it's interesting that they've done a revival now, and Daniel Radcliffe, I think, has brought the public in, and it's a huge, huge hit, and consequently he's won this award, which I think is great.
I didn't know he was a singer either.
No, but it's a wonderful, wonderful show. It goes backwards. It starts at the and goes forward. It's a very complicated musical, but it's brilliant.
But I mean, Dawn, I can rely on you, I'm sure, to land a blow on Daniel Radcliffe as a sort of...
Daniel Radcliffe is an actor. Look, I don't know about his acting. I'm not a judge of acting, obviously, but he is an actor who was made famous by playing Harry Potter, written by J.K. Rowling, and Daniel Radcliffe now has a secondary career having a go at J.K. Rowling over her defence of women's rights. So... jury's a bit out on J.K. Rowling with me.
Well, I agree as well with you. I think it's disgraceful. They all became millionaires, huge stars, and suddenly knifed her, you know, in the back. I thought it was terrible.
Yeah, I think
But thankfully, she has risen above it.
But yes, I mean, I have to say, I don't ever really know if I think Daniel Radcliffe is a good actor or if he was just a child that kind of fitted a role at a particular
He had the right glasses.
Anything I've seen post Harry Potter is kind of just, I still see Harry Potter. But fascinating that, you know, your ilk are rating him now, so he must have done something right.
Let's turn back to the general election. Lib Dems today, matter of fact, we've got a Lib Dem spokesman on what, after 8, is it, or before 9? 8 o'clock. And Dawn, they're talking about basically Ed Davey, the party leader. Basically, he's just spending this campaign falling off paddle boards and being on water slides and various things. Why? What's the theory with this?
Well, you know what? I don't actually understand. I've read this and I do not understand what the theory is. He's turning politics into a game show. I think, you know, he knows he's not going to win much, basically, the way things are going. But, you know, all we've seen is clowning around. And it's like, you know, politicians, you know, can be accused of being clowns at the best of times, but he really is elevating into an art form. And when he was going down that water slide and those very, very tight swimming trunk things that he had on, I can never unsee that. The problem with Sir Ed Davey is he's tarnished by the post office scandal. And whilst this is marginally...
So why is he tarnished by the post office scandal?
Well, because he was in charge and refused to meet the people, you know...
And he didn't conduct an investigation?
He didn't conduct an investigation and refused to meet Mr Bates because he thought it was pointless meeting and even talking to him, Eamonn. So, you know, and as we know, 4 people took their own lives during that scandal and many, many people are still suffering and they still haven't had compensation. So I look at these pictures and I think, yeah, all very funny, mate, but, you know...
Well, you wouldn't have seen Paddy Ashdown doing any of this, would you? He seemed like a much more serious character. But as I said earlier, Ed Davey does have a serious background and a lot of personal cachet, I'd say, in a way that sort of Rishi Sunak lacks in terms of his own personal story and tragedy that he's overcome. And yet no one talks about it because it's all falling off a paddleboard 5 times in 15 minutes and nonsense.
We have seen it before. I mean, we have seen it before. We saw obviously Boris Johnson on the zip wire, and a lot of politicians this time around doing TikTok videos.
Oh, can we talk about Suella Braverman?
Do we have to talk about Suella Braverman?
Have you seen this TikTok video where she's doing the strut down the...
It's so embarrassing.
Is it embarrassing, or do you think she's actually got her finger on the pulse with the youngsters?
Dawn Butler also did a rap video, didn't she, urging people to vote for her, and I watch it and you're just transfixed in horror. I just want someone to sort the country out.
Yeah, but aren't you amazed, actually, that the Tories are doing anything to reach out to young people? Even if it is just in the form of a TikTok
sending them
video.
off to fight,
That's
Isabel.
true. I'm sure they're thrilled
doing.
about that. OK, we've covered embracing embarrassment. Let's talk about Tesco's anti-theft fog begins.
Well, I think this is really a good idea, but the trouble is, this happens at night when the store is closed. They have this machine which is sensitive to people walking around it, and it then sends this smoke out, which I suppose would terrify them. But I think they should be doing this during the day, because there's so much theft now in supermarkets and shops, on corner shops.
Smoke them out.
It's terrible. I think we need to actually terrorise these people into something, because it's just outrageous, and they're getting away with it. The police don't go anywhere near it. You know, they ring up these poor shopkeepers who are trying to make a living and finding it very difficult, because every time they turn around, someone's stealing something.
Yeah. So you're saying frighten them during the day,
yes,
never mind the evening.
Exactly, exactly.
But I mean, you know, things started going horribly wrong when we started ignoring thefts below £200. It's like, literally, we can't be bothered to investigate that. So it gives you carte blanche to go in and do what you want. And we're not talking about people, just to get this clear, stealing the necessities of life, a loaf of bread or nappies for the baby. We're talking about people going in, nicking trolley loads of alcohol and walking out with it and getting away with it.
And also, you know, having a company where people go to them and say, oh, can you get me 2 bottles of wine, and can you get me a packet of chocolate biscuits, and there's like an ordering system, and that's just appalling.
I was watching something the other night, can't remember what it was, but it was 2 women who had a newsagents in South Shields, basically, and these 11 members of a gang turned up and they put hoods over their head and whatever, and they simply walked in, just raided the shelves, took what they wanted. A lot of chocolate and things like that, but it was the arrogance of basically saying, this is what we fancy, and this is what we're going to
take.
Thanks very much. And they went and take it, and the women were crying at the end of it. They just thought, well, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah,
can't
awful.
stop them.
Absolutely.
All they do is lose their profit.
It's
disgraceful.
And this is about Tesco's, but this is happening, as you just said, Eamonn, in small local corner shops as well, where you know the profit margin is tiny already, so they're going out of business.
But where there's a problem, we often come up with a solution, Dawn, and apparently a wine wizard has come up with the problem with plonk that is not palatable, turns it into vintage wine.
Yeah,
Tell me more.
I thought you'd like this one, Isabel. Yeah, this is a great story. It's in the Mail, and it's a thing called Wine Wizard, and it's been invented by a chap called Michael Pritchard. And basically what it does, it injects bubbles through the wine that ages it, like, within days, rather than waiting sort of like years for it to mature and become a nice full-bodied wine. So you can get really cheap, not that you drink cheap wine, Isabel, I've heard. You can get a really cheap bottle of plonk, you know, for a couple of quid. Don't nick it, by the way, just go and buy it. Put this gizmo on it, and it makes it palatable wine. Biggins is looking at me like, you're talking utter rubbish, girl. It's not going to happen.
I just wonder where you get a couple of pounds worth of wine. Where do you buy that wine from?
Oh, have you not been to... Well, certain supermarkets are available where you can... Yeah, you can buy cheaper wine in certain... Not the supermarkets you go to, Biggins, obviously.
Yes.
I'm not sure Fortnum & Mason are quite caught up. Other supermarkets are available.
Well,
but
I want to know
sounds a
if
good thing.
anyone has actually tried and tested that. I'm more than willing to be their volunteer.
Yeah,
Should we get
absolutely.
involved?
I think,
but at the moment,
absolutely. Yeah.
the jury's out on that one. All right, Dawn, Biggins, thank you both very much. We'll see you again just after 8:30. But for now, we're going to check on your weather forecast today with Honor Krizik.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and
and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, there's still plenty of sunny spells and showers in the forecast this week, but from midweek onwards, plenty of dry weather, and we'll even start to see some sunshine. A cloudy start for Monday, though, across the central slice of the UK, with some showers starting to break through, and on the whole, a rather unsettled day with sunny spells and showers. The driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, where we'll see plenty of sunshine. It may just turn hazy by the time we reach the afternoon, but this is where we're going to catch the best of the temperatures, highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius by the afternoon. Later on into the afternoon and through into the evening, we will continue to see plenty of showers across the country, and they may be heavy at times. You may even hear the odd rumble of thunder in the northeast. And lighter winds too, which means they're going to move through fairly slowly, so you may catch some persistent heavy downpours at times. Largely dry across Northern Ireland, but a mostly cloudy day. Still some showers in the north of England. But further south is where we'll start to see that drier weather. The odd shower here and there, but otherwise plenty of late evening sunshine on offer. Through into the evening, it is going to be a largely drier night compared to recent nights. Plenty of clear spells too, which means it's going to be turning cooler. May even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the morning. But it is going to be staying largely cloudy across Scotland, and it's going to be quite damp here too. But that means that's where it's going to be milder. Whereas under those clearer spells, it is going to be a cooler night than recent nights. Now, overall on Tuesday, it is going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still those showers, though, generally developing through the course of the morning in northeast England, and quite a damp day across Scotland too. And once again, we could catch the odd heavy downpour, may even hear the odd rumble of thunder, and a chance we may see some rain in the far southeast. But that's generally where we'll see the warmer weather once again. Bye for now.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed westbound along St Mary's Gate in Sheffield for an investigation, with Bramall Lane also closed on the approach to the roundabout there. In Gloucestershire, the A46 is partly blocked by an accident at Calcutta, causing delays. In Hertfordshire, the A411 Hempstead Road is partly blocked by an accident northwest of Watford, with queues from the A41 at Hunton Bridge roundabout. In Essex, the A12 is partly blocked southbound by an accident just after junction 20B north of Hatfield Peveril, causing 2 miles of queues heading away from Colchester towards Chelmsford. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues approaching the M25 again this morning because of roadworks. And in Devon on the A38, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident near to the Rattery turnoff. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
There's still time to win our Summer Spectacular with an incredible trio of treats, and you could win them. First, there's a fabulous £15,000 in tax-free cash to ensure this summer is special. What would you spend that on? Next, you'll also receive the latest iPhone 15 and a set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at your favourite UK attraction. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan Tonight, weekends from 9 p.m.
England's new patron saint, Gary Lineker, a man holier and more virtuous than Mother Teresa and Gandhi combined, strikes again. Never one to miss the chance of some moral posturing, goal-hanging PR opportunist Lineker has spoken out about tonight's Champions League final. He tweeted the following: "This is the first time I'll be cheering for Real Madrid in a Champions League final." The German side Dortmund have signed a 3-year sponsorship deal with weapons manufacturer Rheinmetall. Now, Gary Lineker is not a stupid person. Following a stellar career on the pitch, it was a storied transition to broadcasting. And let me tell you, he's worth every penny of that £1.3 million a year of licence fee payers' cash to introduce football clips. So how did it escape the attention of this bright man that our democracies and our freedoms are protected and defended by the weapons produced like companies such as Rheinmetall? In fact, we should big up, not cancel, Rheinmetall, who have produced some of the armaments which are now helping Ukraine. Well, I'm very confused because I thought Gary Lineker was very supportive of Ukraine and their battle for survival. But now he wants to take their weapons away. I'm very, very confused. After all, they're going to need weapons with which to defend themselves. They can't fight by sending off tweets like Gary does. Now, many people love Gary Lineker. He has over 8 million followers on Twitter. This idol of the progressive left battled HMRC in court to reduce his tax bill by almost £5 million. This latest Lineker rant about war is weapons-grade nonsense. Sorry, Gary, but you're firing blanks.
The People's Channel.
It's midday. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides
as you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel. Britain's election channel.
A very good morning to you. Good to see you. Eamonn and Isabel here. Monday, 17th of June. This is Breakfast on GB News.
Thanks for your company. Leading the programme this morning, England has kicked off their Euros campaign with a win against Serbia as fans have been celebrating their hero, Jude Bellingham.
Well, not the emphatic start to the Euros we wanted, but a great goal, though, from arguably now our most important player. 20-year-old Jude Bellingham, then, he sealed it for England. As Sven-Goran Eriksson famously said, first half good, second half, not so good. But a win's a win, and it's Denmark on Thursday next. Also, Rory McIlroy blows it in the US Open, missing 2 3-foot putts after being 2 shots up with 5 holes to play. And in tennis, titles for 2 Brits, Katie Boulter in Nottingham and Jack Draper wins in Stuttgart.
In other news, the Prime Minister's been urged to rescue his campaign by targeting Sir Keir Starmer as he warns of black holes in Labour's manifesto.
The Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, takes centre stage at Labour's campaign today. She promises 650,000 new jobs.
And Reform is to launch its policies today. They're refusing to call them a manifesto, but instead a social contract with the people.
Hello there. A mixture of sunny spells and showers in the forecast, but overall a drier day compared to the weekend. So stay tuned for all the details.
It is, would you believe, just over 2 weeks until the election. The race could take a ruthless turn, though, as reports are coming out that Conservative ministers are pressurising the Prime Minister to launch personal attacks on Keir Starmer.
Well, it seems that scrutinising Labour's manifesto isn't cutting it, with desperate Tories demanding Rishi Sunak calls out Sir Keir Starmer's previous support for Jeremy Corbyn and his history of backing a second EU referendum.
But is it all too late for the Conservatives? Let's now go to our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, on the Labour battle bus. And Catherine Foster, you're there in Westminster. Tell us how things are shaping up, Catherine, this morning after the weekend.
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. Well, you know, during an election campaign, the polls are supposed to narrow. That's what normally happens. But the Conservatives, the polls are not budging at all in the gap between Conservatives and Labour. And in fact, Reform are eating ever more into the Conservatives' vote. So they are getting increasingly desperate to find something that will start to shift them. They've tried banging on about Labour going to put up your taxes. That's their main attack line at the moment, but it doesn't currently seem to be having any effect. So now some are urging the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, to play a bit dirty, not something that will come easily to him. They're saying, look, you've got to go after Sir Keir Starmer personally, point out that he was a cheerleader for a second referendum. He wanted to reverse Brexit, point out that he was director of public prosecutions, and point out more than anything that he supported Jeremy Corbyn. He campaigned twice to make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister. Now, these are all difficult points for Sir Keir Starmer, and he's largely evading a lot of scrutiny on those simply by saying the Labour Party is changed. A couple of questions. Will Rishi Sunak do this? He is, as ministers have pointed out, a very nice, honourable, hard-working man. It won't come naturally to him to sort of go after the jugular like this. But we've seen Boris Johnson, remember him, writing pieces in the Daily Mail talking about Starmageddon. We're hearing about, a left-wing socialist state, all much more punchy attack lines. Will Rishi Sunak follow? And it's very noticeable, isn't it? In the last few days, the narrative has really changed from the Conservatives. They're talking more about minimising losses, not giving Labour a blank cheque. It does feel like they've really given up any hope of winning the next election.
OK, interesting. Catherine, thank you very much. Let's cross to Olivia with her seatbelt on there. On the Labour battle bus, I believe, heading to the southeast, and an interesting positioning of Rachel Reeves today, talking about creating 650,000 new jobs, and their slogan, Make Britain Better Off.
Yes, the Labour battle bus is heading down to the south coast to begin a week of campaigning on the economy specifically. Rachel Reeves is promising to create, as you said there, 650,000 new jobs by this green reindustrialisation of Britain. The plan is to create a national wealth fund, which would be £7.3 billion, and that would come with for every £1 of state investment, there would be £3 of private investment. And to do that, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer are already in talks with business leaders across the UK, and they're planning very, very much to be in government in just over 2.5 weeks' time. The only fly in the ointment for Labour, and I should say that the mood on the bus this morning from Labour does seem to be pretty chipper, is that they are still under quite a lot of pressure on Keir Starmer not promising to scrap the 2-child benefit limit. There are left-wing, Nigel Farage actually actually, on the one side, is saying that the Reform Party would scrap the two-child benefit limit, and then on the other side, you have left-wing Labour MPs and activists who feel that this is an anti-Labour policy, that plunging children into poverty simply because they come from big families isn't fair and isn't something Labour should be doing. I think it's possible that over the rest of this campaign, with perhaps pressure from his backbenchers and from possibly the shadow cabinet as well, we could see some movement from Keir Starmer on that issue. The other slight problem that the Labour Party is facing today is Rachel Reeves has said over the weekend that she would be willing to revisit some of the negotiations with the EU, so reopen Boris Johnson's Brexit deal in order to renegotiate some issues around chemicals to give the City of London a better deal. Well, there are plenty of Brexiteers who worry that that would open the door to rejoining the single market. Now, Rachel Reeves has explicitly said time and again, and so has Keir Starmer, that they wouldn't be rejoining the single market. But it might put a little bit of pressure on the Labour Party if the Conservatives manage to cut through on this issue. In places in the Red Wall where lots and lots of people voted for Leave, there could be worry that Keir Starmer is sort of showing those Remainer colours again. But overall, the mood this morning is pretty chipper, and this very much feels like a party preparing for government.
Olivia, thank you very much indeed. We'll leave it there. We've now got the Chief Whip of the Liberal Democrats. That's Wendy Chamberlain. And Wendy, you're looking at a big bus like that Labour bus there, and you're thinking, well, if that was based in the countryside, they'd be paying more for their fuel. And that's a big concern for you.
They would be paying more for their fuel, and they'd probably be struggling to get along some of the roads, given the condition of some of them as well. Yes, thanks, Eamonn. Thanks, Isabel. Good to be here. Yeah, we're here talking about the rural fuel duty. At the moment, there are 21 areas in the UK, only 3 postcodes in England, where people can access this support, which is 5 pence off a litre. The retailer applies to HMRC for that discount, and we're talking about a consultation to expand that to another 20 areas. We'd want to consult on where that is, but we do expect it to be areas such as the southwest, potentially Shropshire, and more areas in Scotland. But the other thing that's important to remember is the fact that the Conservatives promised in government to bring across a pump watch so that everybody could fairly look at what the prices at pumps are and access the best deals. The only place that exists is Northern Ireland, and they do have the lowest petrol prices in the UK. And the Conservatives failed to deliver that. So it's not just about that rural fuel duty we're talking about today.
Wendy,
we're talking about that pump watch scheme
Wendy,
as well.
how do you get those prices down? Are they paid for by government, or are they paid for by the suppliers and actually what they're paid in these areas?
So it comes through HMRC, the existing rural fuel duty scheme that we're talking about expanding. The retailers apply to HMRC for the discount, which they then pass on to consumers. And that's why the pump watch element is so important too, because we do need to call out where retailers are potentially taking advantage of rural communities where competitiveness is likely to be less, and they've got less choice about where they go to purchase their fuel.
At the risk of sounding deeply cynical, just looking at the list of places where you want to expand this to, Devon, Cornwall and other parts of the southwest, they wouldn't have to be Liberal Democrat Conservative marginals where you stand to do well, would they?
Well, I mean, we've obviously suggested a number of places, and yes, some of those are places where the Liberal Democrats are fighting hard. In fact, we're fighting hard across the UK, but we're very clear that this is a consultation. But, you know, when we're talking to people in rural communities, such as my own, people are impacted by this. They're impacted by the state of the roads, and they're also impacted by the lack of local transport infrastructure, which means that their cars are an only option.
I'm interested by the manifesto that you've published. Very openly, £27 billion worth of extra spending being promised to be paid for by £27 billion in extra taxes, when we're already facing the biggest tax burden since the Second World War. Do you think people are going to want to vote for that?
It's not extra taxes in the main. There's a good piece where we're talking about cracking down on tax avoidance. In HMRC itself says that for every pound invested in that, we recover 9 to 18 pounds, and that's something we absolutely should be doing. But we've been very clear that when we talk about raising taxes, we're not talking about national insurance, we're not talking about income tax, and we're not talking about VAT. What we are talking about is the bank surcharge, the tax cut that the Conservatives gave to the big banks, about cancelling that so that we can use that income to better support our public services.
Punchy manifesto, though, isn't it? I mean, I think about constituencies like Jeremy Hunt's in Godalming and Ash, where you've got somebody who's been considered a sort of safe Tory party grandee for many, many years, possibly at the moment looks to lose by around 1,000 seats. But he'll be loving your manifesto. It's putting him in a much better position.
Well, that's certainly not what I'm hearing on the ground. The fact that Jeremy Hunt feels under so much pressure, I think, demonstrates what a strong Liberal Democrat campaign we have, and voters are definitely listening to it.
Wendy, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Wendy Chamberlain is the Chief Whip of the Lib Dems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's have a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom. A major police operation took place in Hamburg ahead of the Euros yesterday as German police shot a man threatening officers with an axe. According to reports, the incident took place near a fan zone for supporters of the Holland team. The attacker is being treated for injuries.
The European Union's vowed to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes to secure peace. The announcement was made during a two-day peace summit in Switzerland. It's called for Russia to give Ukraine full control of nuclear plants and ports, for food not to be weaponised against Ukrainians, and for all prisoners of war to be released.
A 10-month-old calf, which was shot down by a Surrey police car, is being nursed back to health. That's according to the family who own the farm it escaped from. The family described the incident as disgusting before warning that the young cow could still die from shock as a result of being hit by the car. It comes after a Surrey police officer who was driving the vehicle has been taken off frontline duties.
And this has got you talking at home this morning. A large number of pubs seem to be disappearing from our high streets and villages. It's increased with almost 250 pubs closing in the first 3 months of this year. That's around 80 pubs a month, and that's a 56% increase compared to this time last year. The reason being high energy and food costs, tighter consumer spending and, according to publicans, the eye-watering tax burden facing small business owners. Have you been in touch on your say this morning about this? Some pubs I've been in are battlegrounds. Not sure what that means. Paul, pub owner I've seen, makes his staff wear T-shirts at Christmas that says "Pubs are for life, not just for Christmas." And actually, apart from this weekend when our sports day was cancelled due to the ridiculous weather and we all decamped to the pub, the last time I'd been to my local pub was actually Christmas. It is a fair point. A lot of us get together around Christmas time and then don't go in between.
You haven't been to a battleground pub.
You might lose it. I haven't been to a battle. What does that mean?
That means that you get your head taken off of you. It's a bit rough. That's what it means. That's what it means. The weather. How rough's it going to be? Good morning, Honor.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, there's still plenty of sunny spells and showers in the forecast this week, but from midweek onwards, plenty of dry weather and we'll even start to see some sunshine. A cloudy start for Monday, though, across the central slice of the UK, with some showers starting to break through. And on the whole, a rather unsettled day with sunny spells and showers. The driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, where we'll see plenty of sunshine. It may just turn hazy by the time we reach the afternoon, but this is where we're going to catch the best of the temperatures, highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius by the afternoon. Later on into the afternoon and through into the evening, we will continue to see plenty of showers across the country, and they may be heavy at times. You may even hear the odd rumble of thunder in the northeast. And lighter winds too, which means they're going to move through fairly slowly, so you may catch some persistent heavy downpours at times. Largely dry across Northern Ireland, but mostly cloudy day. Still some showers in the north of England. But further south is where we'll start to see that drier weather. The odd shower here and there, but otherwise plenty of late evening sunshine on offer. Through into the evening, it is going to be a largely drier night compared to recent nights. Plenty of clear spells too, which means it's going to be turning cooler. May even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the morning. But it is going to be staying largely cloudy across Scotland, and it's going to be quite damp here too. But that means that's where it's going to be milder. Whereas under those clearer spells, it is going to be a cooler night than recent nights. Now, overall on Tuesday, it is going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still those showers, though, generally developing through the course of the morning in northeast England, and quite a damp day across Scotland too. And once again, we could catch the odd heavy downpour, may even hear the odd rumble of thunder, and a chance we may see some rain in the far southeast. But that's generally where we'll see the warmer weather once again. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, time now for our giveaway. Your chance to win over £16,000 of prizes. That's 15 grand in cash and a whole host of summer treats.
It is a biggie, as you'll now see.
Don't miss out on your chance to win our Summer Spectacular. And have we got a prize for you? First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your Summer Spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
My mate Paul Coit is with us now, and England have done it. So last night, you know, they beat Serbia 1-0.
They beat what was in front of them, Eamonn. That's what they've done.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Serbia was a bad team at all, I have to say. But let's go to a man that'll know better than you and me.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jude Bellingham, the songs... we were hearing Hey Jude being sung. We'll hear from Jude Bellingham in just a second to hear what he said about that. I think Hey Darren may be what they should have sung back in Euro 96.
Yes.
The great Darren Anderton, one of England's finest wingers, with us. Morning, Darren.
Morning, how you doing?
Yeah, there was no Beatles song for you, was there, Darren? I can't believe that Paul McCartney never wrote anything with Darren in.
No chance, I'm afraid.
You could have Darren.
Anderton. We'll work on it, Darren. I tell you, we'll work on it. What did you make on it yesterday? I'm seeing two schools of thought. It seems the papers are saying that we've already won this and saying how fantastic everything was. I was a little underwhelmed. What did you make of it?
I think underwhelmed is probably the right word for it. I think first game of the tournament, never easy. Lots of nerves. I thought we started the game very well. And then once we scored the goal, I think we just took our foot off the gas, really. And it was a little bit, I guess boring is probably the wrong word, but it definitely underwhelmed. I think that up until the goal, I thought we played well. We passed the ball quickly. And then, we just slowed down a bit and we let them get back into the game. Harry Kane didn't get involved in the game. Foden didn't really get involved in the game. But of course, as you said, Bellingham was different class.
Would you have played Harry Kane deeper?
I think he's got to be up top, and he's all about scoring the goals, even in a game like that. I mean, if it wasn't for an amazing save from their keeper, he would have got his goal. I just think that he's got to start up there and then come back into midfield and get on the ball himself and then have forward runners. And I think that's when we see the best of Harry. He can do a bit of everything, score goals, make goals. But the first half especially, when you look at how many touches he had of the ball, I mean, he's a world-class player. We need him on the ball more than that last night.
Yeah, he's more than just someone that's going to just try and score goals. He's got a lot more to his game than that.
Yes.
If we go back to when you were playing, Darren, and I'm looking at the links of playing for England and Euro 96, and I remember the first game against Switzerland, which, although I can say this to you now, it's all these years on, it was pretty forgettable, wasn't it? And then the momentum built. Is there anything that we need to be worried about here, or is this just how we should start a tournament and then hopefully it gets better and better and better instead of going too early like you see how well Germany and Spain played?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think at the end of the day, sometimes you've got to play yourself into the tournament. The game you're speaking about against Switzerland back in '96, same really. We scored the goal, and then we literally froze, and it was a shocking performance in the end, and we were lucky to get a draw. Well, England got a win last night, clean sheet, one ugly. It's not a bad habit to get into, that if things don't go well, still got the right characters within the team to get the right results.
Darren, do they have an equivalent of you in that England team? Could you fit into the way they play? We were just talking. They're not sort of out and out wingers. They're not sort of people who played the obvious role that you would play. What do you make of the setup, the way they play in the middle, for instance?
Well, I think the game's changed. And I guess that in Euro 96 that Terry had myself and Steve McManaman playing as wing-backs, which was foreign to us, actually, because we were both wingers and meant that we had to, we didn't have a full back behind us to protect us. So that was tough within itself. But we had the energy to get up and down the pitch, like a Carl Walker, I suppose. But yes, the team definitely different now. The way that the wide players come inside, I think Saka stays out wide, more than, let's say, Phil Foden, who's used to at Man City coming inside and getting on the ball. So yes, it's definitely different. And sometimes when we don't keep that width, then we're easier to play against, and it's difficult for players to get into that little hole behind Harry Kane, because we've got so many good players that want to do that. Bellingham wants to do that. Saka wants to do that. Foden wants to do that. So it's just about trying to get the right balance. I like the fact that Trent played in there last night, and we didn't go into out-and-out defensive midfielders. I like that, and I think that Trent can play better, and I'm hoping that he gets another chance in there against Denmark.
I think you're probably right. What about Gareth Southgate? Now, this is someone you know very well because you played alongside him, didn't you, playing for England? Yes. Well, what's your views on Gareth and Gareth as England manager?
I love him. I mean, he's been a great manager, and I think that feels like there's a lot of negativity around him. I think that you got to remember when he came in, it was a very dull England team. He's come in and we've gone to tournaments and we've really done well.
Yeah.
A World Cup semi-final, losing in the final of the Euros. I mean, we're very, very close. I mean, we've got some wonderful footballers. There's no doubt about it. There's some world-class players within that squad. And sometimes I wish that we would be a little bit more forward-thinking, a little bit more positive. But it's a tournament and it's about winning. And that's what England have been doing in recent tournaments.
Very good. OK, Darren, lovely hearing from you. Thanks for your time today, my friend. And hopefully we'll speak again about more happy times in the run-up to the final.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cheers, Darren. Thanks so much. Thank you.
I like the song. I think he's brother Darren Anderton. Yeah. I think we've come up with something. We're just about 30 years too late, but I think it worked for us.
Hey, listen, can I have a wee word about golf and the US PGA, the Open?
US Open, yeah.
The US Open. Rory McIlroy was in a really good position. Didn't happen for him, and it hasn't happened for him for a long time.
Oh, this is heartbreaking. So we're looking at over 10 years now since he last won a major, and he's gone into the Open, the US Open, the final round, just behind Bryson DeChambeau, who's 3 strokes behind, pulls it back. He's 2 strokes up with 5 holes to play. So you would think that Rory's going to be OK, just, par it, get through. And this is the thing about golf, and this is the thing about elite sport. That's when it starts getting into the head. And it's obviously played into his mind. He misses a 3-foot putt, which is something he does not do. Then goes to the 18th, misses another one from about 3 foot, and then loses by 1 stroke, which is absolutely heartbreaking for Rory because so close and probably should have finished it. But the thing is, he played so well for the rest of that round and for the whole of the tournament, and then it just came down to the end. Is that British mindset of winning? If that, we talked about Darren, about England getting so far, we got to the semi-final, get to the final, never quite seal the deal. So let's just hope things start to change.
I do hope so, personally and professionally for him.
Denmark on Thursday.
Yeah, so we're going to close the deal, seal the deal with you.
Good job.
Say goodbye. Thank you, my friend. See you again soon.
Right, stay with us. Still to come, we will be speaking to the Shadow Paymaster General, a.k.a. the Labour attack dog, Jonathan Ashworth, after this break.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M6 in Lancashire, there are southbound queues after traffic was stopped because of an accident between junctions 31A and 31 from Longridge to Samlesbury. There are queues from junction 32 for the M55, and it's also very busy northbound past the scene because of onlookers with queues from junction 9 for Clayton Brook. Now in South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed westbound along St Mary's Gate in Sheffield for an investigation. There are queues towards there from the A6. In Gloucestershire, the A46 is partly blocked by an accident at Calcutta, causing delays. In Hertfordshire, the A411 is partly blocked by an accident northwest of Watford, with queues from the A41 at the Hunton Bridge roundabout. And in Essex on the A12, there's a lane closed southbound past an accident just after junction 20B north of Hatfield Peveril, taking 40 minutes in queues heading away from Colchester towards Chelmsford. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good to see you again. We've got a report now coming up on firearms, guns in this country. Where are they coming from? Well, they're being used by criminals on the streets of London in particularly, and they're being brought in from abroad.
Well, our Home and Security editor, Mark White, has been looking into this and has this report for you this morning.
At this train station in Luton, firearms officers move in on an armed suspect. This is 20-year-old Tyrell McCoy. When officers searched him, they found this handgun and ammunition. McCoy and other members of his North West London gang have now been jailed for drugs and firearms offences.
I'm scared to think about his last moments, because I think if I do, that's when I know I'm going to hit that black hole and I might never, ever come out of it.
Jackie Taylor knows more than most the heartbreak gun crime can bring. Last year, her son Tyrese was shot dead in South London. His killer has since been convicted, but for the family, their grief is all-consuming.
Sometimes I sit down and it's not even tears. I'll just be sitting down and all of a sudden I can't breathe. And then I'm just like, come on, Jackie, come on. None of us have ever been the same since that day. It's just horrible.
Loud shouts, loud shouts.
Across the capital, police have raided dozens of addresses in recent weeks in a crackdown on the criminal gangs involved in gun crime, arresting more than 50 and seizing dozens of weapons. The Met say firearms offences have fallen to a 15-year low in London. But many criminals still manage to acquire guns, often from other crime groups overseas.
Well, the majority of illegally held firearms here in this country come from abroad. But having said that, we often see converted blank firers, which are legal. They're used for things like starting pistols, gaming, etc. Currently, we're seeing converted firearms coming in from places like Turkey. It fluctuates over the years.
This South London criminal, Danny Butler, is now serving an 18-year jail term after officers searched his home and found 6 firearms. Some, including a loaded handgun, were found in his young children's bedroom drawers. Across the capital, police are continuing to pursue the gun criminals. But it is, it seems, a never-ending battle against those determined to carry these deadly weapons. Mark White, GB News.
Well, as Mark says, it's a never-ending battle, and it's a crime that pervades more and more of our lives in our neighbourhoods, and kids and young people are able to get their hands on these.
Yeah, and we always think, don't we, of America being the country with the gun problem, but increasingly it is a problem we suffer over here. We're going to talk now to the Shadow Paymaster General, Jonathan Ashworth, who joins us. Good morning, good to see you. I'm just taking a quick scan across the papers this morning, and a lot of it focusing on Labour, it has to be said. At the front of the Express, Labour will run riot with your money. The Telegraph saying Labour net zero plans, £4.5 billion tax black hole, calls on Starmer to discard the Tories' 2-child benefits limit, and also Reeves is pledged to tear down EU trade barriers. You're going to have a lot to do, aren't you? Let's focus, shall we? Hold on. Right, we're going to just pause there for a moment. Jonathan Ashworth, we hope, is OK. We were expecting to speak to him, and hopefully we can reconnect with him in just a moment. We quite often see campaigners...
Why aren't we looking at it?
Well, just make sure he's safe. Yeah, well, we'll come back to Jonathan Ashworth just as well as we can. But as you can see from the papers, lots of different lines here, focusing on their finances, whether or not their budget adds up, what it will mean from the Conservative point of view, and also what Rachel Reeves wants to talk about today. She's going to be talking about creating 650,000 new jobs. She's also going to be talking about renegotiating the Brexit deal, the Windsor framework, as well as Boris's attempt at that, which would be closer alignment with the EU. Can they be open about that or not? Apparently, we can't reconnect to Jonathan Ashworth just yet. So we'll find out what's going on there, take a quick break and be back with either him or Biggins and Dawn Neeson after this. See you in a moment.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
The Princess of Wales has reportedly been out and about, enjoying days out with her family, while she continues to undergo her treatment for cancer.
And Buckingham Palace says they have been inundated with tens of thousands of get well soon cards and gifts for the princess.
Yes, I can imagine so. Now we're joined by former royal correspondent at The Sun, Charles Ray. Charles, how do they know she's been out and about with her family?
Good afternoon, Tom and Emily. It's interesting, yes. I mean, how do they know that she's been out and about? No pictures have been seen of the princess out and about. And I'm surprised that with all the people who've got camera phones, that if she has been that out and about, that we haven't seen her. But anyway, we have to accept that she is out and about. She's with her family. But the palace are making it quite clear, pointing out that this should not be confused with her returning to work anytime soon. There are even some suggestions that she won't return to work probably until the autumn. And there's one suggestion that may not even be till next year. Like her father-in-law, she's not sitting at home with her feet up watching daytime TV. She is actually working. She's actually doing things.
And yet, this is a difficult time, of course, for the royal family to navigate everything. The King has cancer, the Princess of Wales has cancer, and we're in the middle of a general election campaign where the royal family have to be very, very careful about where they go, what they do and what they say.
Sure. And as you quite rightly say, Tom, I mean, things have had to be cancelled in any case. So during this next 6 weeks, we are not going to be seeing any members of the royal family doing as much as they possibly can or can do prior to a general election.
The People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said Storm. You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, just to say, Jonathan Ashworth has stepped away after that, and I just think it really highlights the risk that our politicians take when they go out and about trying to do their job. We saw what's happened to Nigel Farage twice during this election campaign. A member of the public there making it impossible for us to talk to Jonathan Ashworth, and it really, I think, points to this kind of rise in the public approaching MPs, and it's a very worrying trend. We've got Biggins and Dawn with us to go through the papers. Just some reaction from you to that this morning.
I think you're right. I think now, regardless of what we think politically about our politicians, I think the fact that we are now treating them with something that is dangerous contempt. I mean, we saw it with Nigel Farage the other week where someone threw a milkshake at him. And we've seen it before where politicians have been egged. And it's like, oh, it's only a milkshake. But it's not only a milkshake. It's only a milkshake until it isn't. It's acid or something like that. And I think, you know, when it's not that long ago we lost Joe Cox and David Amess. And I think we really have to dial back the rhetoric on how we talk about politicians and how we treat them. I mean, they are human beings at the end of the day.
Meanwhile, Biggins, we've got a lot of celebs in the USA wanting to be seen around politicians, and in this particular case, President Joe Biden. Tell us more.
Well, they've had George Clooney and Julia Roberts, real A-listers, have been supporting and doing a fundraiser which raised $28 million. We don't see that happen a lot here, though, do we?
No, and should we, is the question. I always remember people like Bob Monkhouse, Jim Davidson becoming associated with the Conservative Party in particular. And it alienated a lot of people who would normally support them and what they do. Do you think it's a good idea to be affiliated, associated?
I think it's probably a bad idea, but I think the Americans, you see, go with it with gung-ho because they think they're helping their country, you know, and I don't think they realise or think it through that they could be harming themselves.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. We did go through that period where we had, especially during Margaret Thatcher's reign.
Yes.
There was, you know, Kenny Everett, you know, do you remember him, you know, swinging that big hand, you know, and it was...
Brotherly love.
Exactly. It was hysterical.
Yeah. It was interesting, Dee Ream and their Things Can Only Get Better ushered in the Tony Blair era, which they were fine with, but they've asked for today's Labour Party not to use it because they don't want to be associated with Labour, because they are getting flack over the whole Labour stance on the situation in Gaza and Israel. So it's like they want to say, don't use that anymore, please.
What do you think? We're in your head of former showbiz reporter and whatever. What do you think about British personalities becoming, you know, quite a lot of people would have been openly associated with Labour in the past, particularly in the 80s. Do you think it's a good idea or not for personalities to become politicised?
No, I don't. And I don't think sports stars should do it either, to be honest with you. I think if you are a showbiz person, you're entitled to your opinion privately, but I think you should just stick to the day job. I find it very uncomfortable when, obviously, Gary Lineker is the most famous example, you know, do get politically very involved, and politically so much so that it's like very pro one party and not the other. And it does make me uncomfortable. And I think and obviously, as Biggins has pointed out, it does alienate potentially 50% of your following, whether it's sport or showbiz we're talking about. So I think it is dangerous.
So we should be grateful, really, is what you're saying, that our showbiz folk don't enter into the miserable and toxic world of politics. So
Stay in the wings.
Yes, keep it light. Yeah, there for our light relief.
Taylor Swift got flack in America, didn't she? She was accused of supporting Biden. And she got flack. I mean, you know, the goddess of all things pop.
Biggins is right that the Americans see it as somewhat different. I mean, for instance, I remember John Wayne being offered something, who was a notorious right-winger, being offered something by a Democratic president, but he took it, accepted it, because he was the leader of the country. He was, you know, the president, as it were. So, as Biggins says, I think a lot of them see it as supporting the USA.
And also, I think that some of the celebrities see themselves as a future president.
Yeah, indeed.
You know, which we've seen that happen.
But, you know, when you look back at that, Ronald Reagan, as an actor, you know, particularly good president.
Yeah.
Amazingly good.
He was.
For what he was. And the picture that you're talking about, we see George Clooney, who could see himself, or some people
very much so,
as some sort of political force in the future. What about Meghan Markle? People are saying she's got political ambitions.
I'm sure she has. I mean, she's a very ambitious young lady. So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it happens a lot. Because the American political system is so different, you have a president, whereas we have the party. We're not so... Well, we never used to be so personality-led. You are, in theory, voting for a party rather than a person.
But Isabel raised a point earlier, which is very true. Are you voting for your local MP and the party that they represent and the constituency and what they do for it? Or are you voting for candidate A or candidate B who leads the party in that presidential role?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I think a lot of people will be asking themselves that very question. And I think the sensible thing possibly will be to vote for the person you think is doing a very good job for your local area, regardless of what political party they are.
I think that's important because they're the people who are helping your area.
Yes.
And they're not necessarily part of the whole hideousness of politics.
Well, also, even if it's not just about how they affect your local area, how they vote on the issues that matter to you in Parliament as well. Because, as I say, it isn't just about Starmer versus whoever it is.
Well, it is just about Starmer versus whoever it is. I put it to you, if Starmer had any real personality, this would be, nobody would be even debating that there may be a swing and there may be a turn. They'd be simply saying Labour would be definitely home. Labour probably will win the election, but it would be a certain... Starmer had personality and charisma.
Everyone would vote for him.
Who out of the shadow cabinet do you think would do better in his role right now?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a man that's sitting, he's the mayor of Greater Manchester.
Oh, right, Andy Burnham.
If he was an MP, he would completely walk with Andy Burnham.
Not wrong there.
Yeah, fairly sensible as well.
Shall we talk about this story in the Telegraph, Dawn? Unbelievable, really. A father decided to take his 14-year-old out of school to attend D-Day commemorations.
Why is it unbelievable?
And how did the school react?
OK, yeah, this is a dad called Neil Young. He has a 14-year-old daughter called Emily. She goes to St Anselm's Catholic School in Canterbury in Kent.
Look, basically, he took her out of school for a week or so to go and visit this, and the school said, you can't do this.
She is studying history. She's very keen to be a historian, and Dad thought it would be a good idea to take her out to the D-Day commemorations so she could experience living history. She could talk to some of the people that actually are part of that history before we lose them, sadly. He says he notified the school. The school, while he was out there, sent him an email saying, we're fining you £60 because you didn't have permission to do this, and he assumed he had done. But this is the whole debate is, I mean, the school have gone back on it and said, no, it's an administrative error. But this is the thing here, is rules are rules, OK? And he broke the rules. Simple as that. So therefore the school were within the rights to fund. But surely for that young lady, if she certainly wants to study history when she gets older, being part of that D-Day commemoration
Look, her
is important.
her dad isn't there to rewrite the rules. The rules are rules, as you say.
Rules is rules.
What her
I mean, that's the
dad
thing.
should have done, and what the school would have liked him to have done, is not informed them at all, to say Emily's on a sickie this week or whatever it is.
Yes.
End of story.
Yeah.
Everybody's friends.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, I completely understand why the dad did what he did, because it was important to be out there.
Wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
To talk to the people that are part of
You
history.
just can't keep saying there's a wonderful opportunity for my child and they should be doing this, so we're overruling you, the school.
As I said, I mean, it's rules of rules. That's the thing. You can't break the rules as well.
You
So
can't-
I completely
I agree with
understand
you,
that.
but Biggins and Isabel are saying, you know, well, what a wonderful opportunity for them. The opportunity, if you want to have the opportunity, tell a lie. There's no point playing by the rules.
Well, yeah.
But is that an opportunity, though, telling lies?
Yes.
Is it?
It's one of the best things in the world. Telling lies or not telling the truth gets you so many places in life.
Yeah, I don't make a habit of lying myself, and I don't want my
Well,
children
here's the
to learn
truth
that.
for you then, Amy, because in The Sun, page 11, it says you're going into the Big Brother house.
Well, it was news to me reading it this morning. But if the Sun know, the Sun know. I think the Sun would like any news associated with me at the moment, and they print anything. But
Don't do it, by the way.
The price isn't right. I reckon they upped the price a bit.
Yeah, I think you're
Could
right.
be tempted in.
What did he get last year? And that was Big Brother. That was Celebrity, wasn't he? He got 1.5 million, Nigel
That
Farage.
sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
See,
Yes.
tempting. Jungle.
No, but I think $1 million
It's
should be
suddenly
added.
become tempting, so it has. Yeah. The thing is, you've done Big Brother Biggins, haven't
I
you?
did.
Do you recommend it?
No, I don't. I was very unceremoniously evicted.
Oh.
Because they wanted this awful boy to win.
But isn't that kind of the absolute best outcome? You get the whopping fee, but you only have to stay in for a few nights.
I can't tell you, but at the time it was pretty hard, you know, to be evicted.
But
looking back was very nice.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good.
But Eamonn, don't you want much more money than 250,000?
I would vote for you, Eamonn, though. Go in there. Go on.
Go on. Look, he's
It'd be good for us
He's
all.
not denying it.
They needed, if you were to live in London, London climbs up the list worldwide of the most expensive cities for overseas workers. Well, for any workers, but anyway. Christopher, what can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm surprised we're so low because I think London is hugely expensive now.
Well, it's number 8 out of 10.
I know, but I mean, I would have thought, I don't know, we would much have. Hong Kong hits the #1 spot, followed by Singapore, then we go to Zurich, Geneva.
4 in Switzerland.
All in Switzerland. Places, I never go to Switzerland. Do you go to Switzerland? I can't afford to go.
For a long time. No, I haven't.
And then New York. Well, New York, we know, is very expensive. And Nassau in the Bahamas, that's very expensive. And then Los Angeles. I mean, luckily, none of us here, I don't think, go to these countries a lot, except for our own country, which we all know is absolutely astronomical now. You go out for a meal in a restaurant, and there's 4 of you, and it can be easily £600 or £700.
Yeah.
And these restaurants, by the way, are full. You can't get a table at some of them.
The interesting thing is how they work this out, though. The researchers who've discovered that London is now number 8 on this list, they use it. They find it by a basket of goods and services to come to these conclusions, which include 12 large eggs, a litre of olive oil, an espresso at a cafe, a litre of petrol, a pair of jeans, and a woman's haircut. So they compare these costs in each city and see how much it costs.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you pay for your hair?
Oh, God.
Who are you talking to?
You can pay. I mean, I used to regularly pay 66 quid or so to get my hair cut. And I thought, stuff this for a game of soldiers. This is now getting ridiculous. So I went to the Turkish barber, which was 13 quid or 15 quid.
Yeah.
That then jumped to 33 quid, and they only take cash for what they do. So if you go to any Turkish barber in the whole country, nobody takes a credit card. Does nobody ever ask why that is?
They do the lovely thing where they sort of put that hot thing on your ear, sort of like a glowing hot stick thing on your ear.
Well, if you've got hairy ears, that's what, do they do that to you? That's why they get rid of all your hair.
But Dawn, how much
really dangerous.
How much they charge you to cut your hair?
Quite a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I used used to go to a barber and I used to pay 10 quid to have it all shaved off.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to go to a London salon, but I can't afford it anymore. And I actually very lucky that my daughter's best friend's mum is a hairdresser, so I just go to her house and she does it. Yeah, and she does a lovely job, I think.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell she does it from her front room.
She's watching, and her parents watch every morning, and I love it. So thank you very much.
Eamonn, you must stop using that basin, by the way.
Can we talk about spiders, Biggins?
Yes,
This story,
why
if
not?
there's anything that I can't stand, it's a spider. Black widow's the most frightening of them all.
Yeah, but
probably.
they've now found a new way. They've neutralised by human antibodies engineered in a laboratory, according to new research. So there are several types, of course, of different spiders, black widow spiders. There's the red, there's the black, but they are in Europe now. But they're mainly in hot countries, which, of course, I think that precludes us from them coming here. I don't think they'll ever come here in a big...
It's too cold for us.
Too cold, exactly.
I know, but now we've got the Asian hornets, and these spiders are making their way north.
I know. You've got
It's
to be
awful,
so
but anyway, at
careful.
least we've worked it out how to, create this anti-venom.
Yes,
whatever
which
it is.
They're not over
is
here,
brilliant.
they're mainly in Australia.
Yeah.
We do have false widows here, though. They can give you a nasty bite.
Mm,
they look
they
like black
can.
widow spiders, but they're not.
And they're called false widows?
False widows, yeah.
I never knew that.
Things can swell up, Biggins.
Really? Oh, I might use that then.
Oh, stop. Right, on that note, we say goodbye to these two. It's been a hoot. See you next week. Thanks very much. And we say good morning to Honor Krizik, who's got the weather for us this morning. Good morning.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, there's still plenty of sunny spells and showers in the forecast this week, but from midweek onwards, plenty of dry weather, and we'll even start to see some sunshine. A cloudy start for Monday, though, across the central slice of the UK, with some showers starting to break through, and on the whole, a rather unsettled day with sunny spells and showers. The driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, where we'll see plenty of sunshine. It may just turn hazy by the time we reach the afternoon, but this is where we're going to catch the best of the temperatures, highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius by the afternoon. Later on into the afternoon and through into the evening, we will continue to see plenty of showers across the country, and they may be heavy at times. You may even hear the odd rumble of thunder in the northeast. And lighter winds too, which means they're going to move through fairly slowly, so you may catch some persistent heavy downpours at times. Largely dry across Northern Ireland, but a mostly cloudy day. Still some showers in the north of England. But further south is where we'll start to see that drier weather. The odd shower here and there, but otherwise plenty of late evening sunshine on offer. Through into the evening, it is going to be a largely drier night compared to recent nights. Plenty of clear spells too, which means it's going to be turning cooler. May even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the morning. But it is going to be staying largely cloudy across Scotland, and it's going to be quite damp here too. But that means that's where it's going to be milder. Whereas under those clearer spells, it is going to be a cooler night than recent nights. Now, overall on Tuesday, it is going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still those showers, though, generally developing through the course of the morning in northeast England, and quite a damp day across Scotland too. And once again, we could catch the odd heavy downpour, may even hear the odd rumble of thunder, and a chance we may see some rain in the far southeast. But that's generally where we'll see the warmer weather once again. Bye for now.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M6 in Lancashire, the outside lanes closed southbound after an accident and fuel spill between junctions 31A and 31 from Longridge to Samlesbury. There were queues from junction 32 to the M55, and also on the northbound side past the scene from junction 9 for the M61 at Clayton Brook. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed westbound along St Mary's Gate in Sheffield for an investigation with delays as you divert. In Gloucestershire, the A46 is closed west of Tetbury after an accident. In Suffolk, the A134 is blocked southbound at Sudbury, and in Essex on the A12 there's a lane closed southbound where there's an accident just after junction 20B north of Hatfield Peveril. It's taking around 40 minutes in queues past the scene heading away from Colchester towards Chelmsford. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Don't miss out on your chance to win our Summer Spectacular. And have we got a prize for you? First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It is fast approaching 9 o'clock on Monday, the 17th of June. You're tuned into Breakfast. Leading the programme this morning, England kick off their Euros campaign with a win against Serbia as fans celebrate their hero, Jude Bellingham. In politics, the Prime Minister's been urged to rescue his campaign by targeting Sir Keir Starmer as he warns of tax black holes in Labour's manifesto. The Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves, meanwhile, will be taking centre stage in Labour's campaign, promising 650,000 new jobs to make Britain better off. And Reform is to launch its policies today, refusing to call them a manifesto, but instead a social contract with the people. Plus, the royal tradition as Garter Day is getting underway this morning, with the King and Queen both expected to attend alongside other members of the royal family.
The oldest and most senior order of chivalry in Britain, but the King is going to be investing 4 new knights and ladies to the order this morning in Windsor Castle. More details shortly.
Hello there. A mixture of sunny spells and showers in the forecast, but overall a drier day compared to the weekend, so stay tuned for all the details.
Welcome to the programme. Thank you very much for your company this morning. Believe it or not, just over 2 weeks to go until Election Day, and that race could take a ruthless turn as reports have been emerging this morning that Conservative ministers are pressurising the Prime Minister to personally attack Sir Keir Starmer and go for the jugular. It seems scrutinising Labour's manifesto isn't cutting it, with desperate Tories demanding that Rishi Sunak calls out Sir Keir Starmer's previous support of Jeremy Corbyn and his history of backing a second EU referendum. But is it all too late for the Conservatives? Well, let's get the thoughts this morning of our team of correspondents, GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley, who's on the Labour battle bus for us this morning, and Catherine Forster, who joins us from Westminster. Catherine, I'm going to start with you because Grant Shapps has admitted on the airwaves this morning for the first time that the Conservatives probably won't win, which is a bit of an own goal, isn't it? They seem to have shifted their sort of approach towards fighting and arguing against this super majority, but not a good look to make that kind of admission.
Yes, Grant Shapps saying the unsayable this morning, but it's been clear from the shift in Conservative strategy over the last few days that something has changed. They've basically accepted, they don't want to say it out loud, they say it out loud that they can't win this election, and what they have to do is try to limit the damage. Now, a shift too in how they're going to do that, because of course all the policies they've announced, the tax cuts, etc., nothing has shifted the polls, and going after Labour saying they're going to put your taxes up doesn't seem to be doing it either. So at the moment it sounds like Rishi Sunak is coming under intense pressure from ministers to go on the personal attack for Sir Keir Starmer. So to point out to voters who it seems may have forgotten or possibly don't care anymore that Sir Keir Starmer, going back just a few years, campaigned for Jeremy Corbyn to be Prime Minister twice. He did that twice. He got elected as Labour leader, basically saying he'd be like Jeremy Corbyn, but without the body of Jeremy Corbyn, if you like, and then has had a huge shift in his position. Pointing out too that, of course, he was the chief cheerleader for a second referendum on Brexit, hoping to remind voters in the Red Wall who may have lent their votes to the Conservatives, now thinking of going back to Labour, essentially saying, don't trust the Labour Party with Brexit. Also pointing out Sir Keir Starmer's record as Director of Public Prosecutions. Now, I think this is a tough ask for the Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak is many things. He's hardworking, he's diligent, he's decent. He's not a street fighter, though, is he? The Conservatives, top Conservatives, think that's what's required now. But will he go there? And even if he does, are voters still listening? Because increasingly it does feel like no matter what the Conservatives say, a lot of voters have simply stopped listening to them.
Yeah,
and of course,
I don't know,
only
Catherine.
just over 2 weeks till the general election.
I think a lot of people will have watched that debate early on between the two leaders, between Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer, and thought that Rishi Sunak actually came out on top from that. Let us know on yours, say what you think at home, listening to the discussion this morning. Just a quick word on reform, Catherine, before we move on, because they're launching not their manifesto but their social contract, and talking about quite a significant bunch of tax cuts there. Tell us what we can expect to hear from them.
Yes, they say it's not a manifesto because manifestos are associated with lies. It's a contract going to be unveiled in Merthyr Tydfil in South Wales this lunchtime, promising, we expect, among other things, to raise the personal allowance at which you pay tax to $20,000, promising to limit net migration to what is absolutely essential, promising perhaps some sort of French-style insurance system to help fund the NHS, and also saying that there's going to be tens of billion pounds of savings to be made from efficiencies within public services. Difficult, really, to see where those efficiencies would come from. Let's see what they say. But of course, they know that this platform, they're not going to be able to put it into practice in government, but they are perhaps trying to influence, first of all, the direction of the Conservative Party, which Nigel Farage, let's face it, is sort of planning to do a hostile takeover of, if, as expected, they lose the next election and lose it badly, but also possibly to have some influence on Labour Party policies going forward.
OK, Catherine, thanks very much indeed. Let's cross over to Olivia, who is still on that Labour bus, making her way to the South Coast with the Labour team. And I'm just sort of scanning across the newspapers this morning. Hardly any of the papers talking about Conservative policies or plans or anything, the government of the day, but actually all of it focusing on things, whether or not this is sort of an internal row for Labour over the two-child benefit cap, but also, these pledges from Rachel Reeves to tear down EU trade barriers. Tell us more about what we can expect to hear from them today.
Well, so what Labour wants to be talking about today is their announcement they'll be creating this National Wealth Fund, £7.3 billion fund, which will be made up of, for every £1 of public investment, so taxpayer investment, there'll be £3 of private sector investment. And that £7.3 billion will be used to fund this green industrial revolution that we've heard so much about. Rachel Reeves will today be saying that that should create 615,000 new jobs. But as you say there, Isabel, that's not really really what the papers have picked up on this morning. What they're talking about is this internal row which is brewing now really quite hard within the Labour Party over Starmer's decision not to scrap the two-child benefit limit. Now, that decision has been put under the spotlight in recent weeks when Nigel Farage of Reform said that the Reform Party would like to see the two-child benefit limit scrapped. And then, of course, also, as well as that pressure from the right, which has really brought the issue into public focus, you also have left-wing Labour MPs, left-wing advisors, left-wing activists who, let's remember, at the moment are very, very important. They're the ones pounding the streets, getting the message out for Labour. They don't like that the Labour Party is saying that it wouldn't scrap this two-child benefit limit. They think that it's a Tory austerity policy, and that basically it means that children who happen to have more siblings end up being thrust into poverty. There are about 2 million children who are affected by this. This has the potential to turn quite nasty, and I think there still could be some movement from Keir Starmer on this over the next 2.5 weeks, with pressure from both backbenchers and potentially frontbenchers too. Now, the other little fly in the ointment for Labour this morning, and I should say it's a pretty chipper atmosphere on the bus. This very much does feel like a party which is going to take power. But Rachel Reeves is under a bit of scrutiny over comments she made over the weekend that she would like to renegotiate various elements of Boris Johnson's Brexit deal, specifically the chemical regulations. She'd like to see the UK go closer into line with the EU on that. Now, Rachel Reeves has made it very clear, and so has Keir Starmer over and over again, that it is absolutely not Labour Party policy to rejoin the single market. But of course, Brexiteers, and many of them are natural Labour voters, obviously don't particularly like the idea of this whole issue being opened up again, and worry that this could signal sort of the beginning of the end of the Brexit that they voted for. That's the message which the Tories are going to try really hard to ram home today. But as you say, no one's really listening to the government of the day anymore.
You normally expect to see those polls narrowing at this point in the electoral campaign cycle. It's not happening. Will that change? Thank you very much, Olivia on the battle bus, and Catherine in Westminster. Now to royal matters. Today is Garter Day. It means the King and Queen will attend the annual service to mark the oldest British order of chivalry. And of course, we have sent our royal correspondent Cameron Walker to Windsor to bring us up to date on all of this. So we get to see all of the royals out and about again today, Cameron.
Good morning, Isabel. We certainly will, and the weather's much better than it was at Trooping the Colour on Saturday. We are expecting to see the King, Queen and Prince of Wales here later today. The Princess of Wales, of course, we saw her for Trooping the Colour, the first engagement she carried out since Christmas Day last year on Saturday. She is not expected to be here today. If you remember, when Kensington Palace announced she would be coming back, it was never going to be seen as a full return to public engagement, so that's perhaps why. But the Order of the Garter, the oldest and most senior order of chivalry in Britain. For centuries, it was limited to just aristocracy. Now knights and ladies come from all walks of life if they have given public service to the nation or personal service to the monarch and the crown. But there was a bit of a question mark whether Garter Day was going to be happening this year because of the general election, because Buckingham Palace announced, post Rishi Sunak's announcement, that the royal family would consider on a case-by-case basis which engagements it was appropriate to carry out, because they didn't want to distract from the general election. But it's up to the monarch himself who appoints knights and ladies of the Garter without interference from the government or indeed Parliament. So the 4 new knights and ladies being appointed this year are Andrew Lloyd Webber, the West End musical composer. He's composed musicals such as Phantom of the Opera, Jesus Christ Superstar. We also have the Duchess of Gloucester, a long-serving working member of the royal family, as well as Lord Kaka, a professor from University College London, and Lord Peach, the Air Chief Marshal. It's a very small group. The Princess of Wales, for example, the Duchess of Edinburgh, they are not Garter ladies as things stand, but for the first time the King has appointed a lady, a woman, as the Chancellor of the Garter. That is the former MI5 boss, Baroness Manningham Buller. But there is an elephant in the room, and that is the Duke of York. He still remains a royal knight of the Garter, of course, no longer a working member of the royal family. He's reportedly at bit of loggerheads at the moment with his brother, the King, over whether or not he can stay living in Royal Lodge, that big 30-room mansion, I should say, on the Windsor estate, very close to where I am standing. He is unlikely to take part in the public elements of the day, but he will taking part in the investiture inside the Garter throne room in Windsor Castle, as well as the private lunch afterwards. But as for the others, they will be processing down in their white plumed hats, dark blue velvet robes from the upper ward of the castle down to St George's Chapel, the spiritual home of the Garter, for the traditional annual service. It's a busy diary for the King this summer, and it looks like that busy diary of engagements are well and truly underway.
Fantastic. OK, Cameron, thanks very much.
Well, from a Great British institution to the Great British giveaway. Time now for your chance to win over £16,000 worth of prizes. 15,000 of that comes in cash and the rest in all sorts of different goodies. Here's how you can get it.
Don't miss out on your chance to win our Summer Spectacular. And have we got a prize for you? First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, let's take a break, I think.
That sounds good.
And then still to come, we've got Beverly Turner, we've got Andrew Pearce, and we'll be talking to them about what they're going to preview in Britain's newsroom.
Yeah, stay with us for that. See you in a mo.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you. This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
What about the elections? Because it seems that the King and everything is moving because of it, and we've got a lot of royal engagements and things that happen at this time.
Yes, well, you know, it means that he has to take more time and be at home. He can't go to all the things he wants to do. He's been doing 5 a day, which is probably made Camilla a bit cross. But what they still hope is that they can get the Japanese emperor and empress over. That's in July. That they can go to France for the 80th anniversary of the fighting. And he will be able to do 1 or 2 things. And Ascot he's very keen to do. Now, those aren't things that are political in any way. I just want to talk about Harry and Charles's argument, where Harry said he didn't want to stay, he wanted to go to a hotel. And it's come out now that actually King Charles is believed that he was offered St James's, and Princess Anne stays there, and Beatrice stays there.
And this was for when Harry came over for his 10th
yeah,
anniversary
exactly. And the policemen are wandering around with guns, and there's no chance of actually there being any problem there. So the fact that he said that it wasn't safe for him was not actually a very sensible thing to say, I don't think.
Well, you went to Nigeria, and that is, in the world ranking, it's ranked as quite a dangerous place.
Yes, one of the dangerous places in the world. But now Harry and Meghan have been invited to go to Ghana.
Oh, God. Well, it's interesting because my parents are from Ghana. I have Ghanaian heritage, and I'm thinking she'll probably then claim as a percentage that she's Ghanaian as well. I'll be like, hang on a minute, you were Maltese, you're also Nigerian,
And
now you're going to say you're Ghanaian and German.
Yeah.
Come on. Thank you very much.
Squeeze it in.
Yeah, let's get them all in. Angela Levin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The People's Channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides.
As you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. Britain's election channel.
We are going to raise a glass now to the popularity of English wine. Are you aware of the popularity of English wine?
I think I'm contributing to the popularity of British wine. It's on the rise, which is a good news story. We need more of these. Britain's vineyards are now the fastest growing edible, I don't know if that's quite the right word, consumable.
Yeah, well, it means that it's just not cabbages or potatoes or whatever it is. It's grapes in the form of wine. We go to our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson. He's got the story, and he's been to a vineyard in Warwickshire.
Tough gig.
A taste of the British countryside, English wine. In the 1980s, there were just 210 hectares of vineyards across the UK. Now there's more than 4,000. In the heart of North Warwickshire sits Blaber's Hall Wine Estate. First harvesting in 2018, this vineyard now produces 10 varieties of wine. Run by husband and wife Clark and Adele Adams, they say the popularity of English wine has never been higher.
So the interest in English wine is huge. A lot of people will say that they've never tried it, but once they try it, they're completely converted over to it. Like I say, we do wine tastings throughout the year. They're sold out. Because people are interested, people are very willing to give local produce a go. I think English wines are very different to European wines. They're much cleaner, they're quite fresh tasting, and I think that's something that comes across in the wines as well.
An estimated 68% of British wine sold is sparkling, and annual production of all varieties in the UK is expected to reach between 25 and 29 million bottles by 2032. But as businesses across the country have felt the pinch, selling their product in a competitive global market is where Clark and Adele believe they're being held back.
This is our Solaris Dry White, our Phoenix Dry White, and our Hemlingford White Medium Dry.
Alcohol duty has been frozen by the government and reformed, but that's left them having to pay £2.67 in duty on every bottle. Across the Channel in France, producers pay just 35 cents.
It's the age-old thing, tax, and wines are heavily taxed with duty and VAT. When we're comparing them to sort of our continental friends, they often pay zero duty, so we're at a very big loss from the start. And unfortunately, we have to pass it on to our customers. It somewhat restricts us when we're competing against imported foreign wines and various other drinks.
With the general election fast approaching, this vineyard in the West Midlands hopes the next government won't bottle it on alcohol duty. Jack Carson, GB News, Warwickshire.
Well, there we go. I'm doing my very best to support the British wine industry, and Eamonn, you can help by, buying some and giving it to me if you'd like. I'll have yours.
Love to. Britain's newsroom coming up at 9:30. Mr. Andrews here to tell us what they're going to be discussing.
I can drink your share of the wine.
Yeah.
Being a
Very
famous
good.
teetotaler. We're talking obviously about football, which I didn't watch. To make a confession. I will tune in by the semi-final because I know we'll be there.
OK.
Won't we?
Yes.
OK, good. And I know Jude Bellingham scored the goal,
Yes.
and I know he plays in Germany.
No, you know more than me.
But we're also talking about a car crash vote for Jonathan Ashworth, the Labour doing the rounds today, trying to justify Labour continuing to keep the cap on child benefit for 2 kids. Last year, he called that policy vicious. And Keir Starmer has been nicknamed by some of his own MPs Sir Kid Starver.
Oh,
because of this policy.
gosh.
And then, of course, we saw Grant Shapps, who's normally a safe pair of hands for the Tories, got himself into
Dropped the ball.
lather over the cost of this national service scheme, which I actually think seems quite a good idea.
Well, he also admitted on the airwaves that the Tories can't win the election, won't win the election, which is a total own goal.
They've changed the strategy now. It's all now about a supermajority. Preventing that. And that's going to be the narrative between now and polling day. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, only 2 weeks to go.
Thank God.
Flying past. Well, you say that, except you know there'll be another election straight after that for the new leader of the Conservatives, and then there'll be big rows over the future of the Conservative Party.
There will be, but if it's a big, decisive Labour victory, we won't have another general election for at least 4 years. Hurrah!
But you were saying there you believe national service is a good idea.
I thought that idea, but I think the way they sold it was very bad.
All right, let me ask you. Say it affected you and me.
Yeah.
Say when we were young, we were going to be drafted, conscripted, whatever.
But you see, I thought the policy was 1 weekend a month in national service. But he's now clarified it, Shapps, say, actually, it's 12 months, but only 1 weekend a month away from home. How does that quite work? So what, you're in the army on day release? So I thought there's a kernel of a very good idea in there somewhere, but because they rushed the policy out, the Tories, they haven't worked it out properly.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But I think the idea of 1 weekend a month for an 18-year-old doing... It's like you're in the reserves, actually. Not a bad idea.
But there's lots of talk, isn't there, from the military sort of world that actually this would pull resources away from properly preparing our forces for an unprecedented international situation at the moment. And actually, you'd have a lot of hopeless kids. You'd have to try and sort them out.
Then make the money available. Is the defence of the realm important, or isn't it? It's the most important job any government can do.
All right, well, we look forward to the programme, past, with Bev Turner, of course. Thank you, Andrew. Have a great show.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you. Well, we will say adios to you, whatever you're doing today. I hope it works out well for you and that the weather sort of does something consistent, if nothing else, so you know where you stand.
Exactly. We'll be back from 6 o'clock tomorrow. Up next, as you know, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev. But first, here's your forecast with Honor.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, there's still plenty of sunny spells and showers in the forecast this week, but from midweek onwards, plenty of dry weather, and we'll even start to see some sunshine. A cloudy start for Monday, though, across the central slice of the UK, with some showers starting to break through, and on the whole, a rather unsettled day with sunny spells and showers. The driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, where we'll see plenty of sunshine. It may just turn hazy by the time we reach the afternoon, but this is where we're going to catch the best of the temperatures, highs of 22, maybe even 23 Celsius by the afternoon. Later on into the afternoon and through into the evening, we will continue to see plenty of showers across the country, and they may be heavy at times. You may even hear the odd rumble of thunder in the northeast. And lighter winds too, which means they're going to move through fairly slowly, so you may catch some persistent heavy downpours at times. Largely dry across Northern Ireland, but mostly cloudy day, still some showers in the north of England. But further south is where we'll start to see that drier weather, the odd shower here and there, but otherwise plenty of late evening sunshine on offer. Through into the evening, it is going to be a largely drier night compared to recent nights. Plenty of clear spells too, which means it's going to be turning cooler. May even start to see some mist and fog develop by the time we reach the morning. But it is going to be staying largely cloudy across Scotland, and it's going to be quite damp here too. But that means that's where it's going to be milder. Whereas under those clearer spells, it is going to be a cooler night than recent nights. Now, overall on Tuesday, it is going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still those showers, though, generally developing through the course of the morning in northeast England, and quite a damp day across Scotland too. And once again, we could catch the odd heavy downpour, may even hear the odd rumble of thunder, and a chance we may see some rain in the far southeast. But that's generally where we'll see the warmer weather once again. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Trains have been stopped between Barrow-in-Furness and Whitehaven after a train broke down. On the M6 in Lancashire, the outside lanes closed southbound after an accident and fuel spill between junctions 31A and 31. From Longridge to Samlesbury, there are queues in both directions from junction 32 for the M55 and from junction 28 at Leyland. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed westbound along St Mary's Gate in Sheffield for an investigation with long delays as you divert. In Cheshire, the A530 is closed each way between Nantwich and Sound after an accident. In Derbyshire, the A52 is blocked westbound by an accident off junction 25 of the M1 near Derby, causing delays. And on the M4 near Bristol, 2 out of 3 lanes closed westbound, where a lorry overturned between junctions 18 and 19 from the A46 at Bath to the M32, with long delays as a result. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As he kissed her goodbye with...
Ian Phoenix was in charge of a counter-terrorism group dedicated to bringing peace to Northern Ireland. He was a husband and a father.
He was a real Irishman. He had the twinkly Irish eyes. He enjoyed a good joke. He liked a good glass of wine.
Susan Phoenix first heard of the accident that killed her husband on her car radio.
I was just driving along going, no, no, no. I can still see it. I can still feel it, even 30 years on.
On the 2nd of June, 1994, the Chinook helicopter that was taking them to a peace conference crashed